Hey y'all, it's Horsethief. Welcome to the June Fairy Tale Fable monthly tournament finals. I am joined here by Yukmouth today. And two questions for you. One, what's going on today? And two, how many chameleons are you hoping to see in the process?
I'll start with question two, and the answer is all of them. For the first question, you already mentioned that we are here for the June tournament for Fairy Tale Fables. All these players battled through a field of players yesterday to even be able to make the top eight and get a chance to join us here. Not only for the opportunity to, play on stream, but also for the first place prize of $125, as well as the winner's border. I think that's always a big one for these players to be able to show off and flex throughout their normal lobby games with the special custom board.
Yeah, whenever I bump into those in a live lobby, Yuck, I gotta admit I'm a little jealous. I kind of think maybe I should take a couple of months off from casting these bad boys and see if I could get that crown myself. But outside of that, in addition, everybody playing today, we do have a prize pool, like you mentioned, for that first place finish. We got one for a second and a third. Everybody playing today is getting the battle pass for a month, and then some crystals being given out to the gamers today too, so lots of reasons to want to make it today too for the tournament finals. And today we got a nice one lined up for you. It's something I wanted to touch on before we even get started. Yuck, you had mentioned last month how difficult it can be to get to this stage of the game, how tough day one truly is. That last month we, by all accounts, missed someone who had made it every other single tournament finals. Well, that player is back. They scored the most points yesterday. That's Zillalag. However, no player in today's roster was in day two last month. I looked it up. I noticed it. We have a completely different batch of players in the top eight here today.
Yeah, that's a fun observation, and you're exactly right. It is tough to qualify. You need to play well, but you also need some things to go well for you that are a little more outside your control. That's one of the things that makes a game like this very interesting to me. You maximize your chances to win. Still doesn't mean you're going to win, but the best players will find a way to excel. And as you mentioned, Zillalag, aka Give Free Roll Back, continues to find ways to do so and was the highest point scorer from day one. So for our first game, that's who will spectate. Before we jump into that, though, I do want to mention, Horse, that there are a couple of changes, a couple of things to point out. This is the first month that asynchronous players were allowed to qualify through asynchronous only play. So that's a lot of fun. Shout out to any of the async players that either played in day one, or I don't know if any of these players may be async as well. And then also, this is a big one. We use the race format, which means you need to score a certain amount of points before you can become live and have the opportunity to win a lobby and therefore win the tournament. That number has changed. In previous months, the number has been 16 points needed to be live. It's now going to be 19. So that could affect the number of games we see today, Horst.
Yeah, those are two really good points. On the first one, talk about out of the frying pan into the fire. While I presume that most asynchronous players probably do get on the sync ladder from time to time and jam some games out, it's a different experience between the two game modes quite a bit. So I would love to find out. I don't actually know if any of the async qualified gamers are in our top eight here today, but that's really cool. And yeah, the swap from 16 to 19 points is a big deal. 16 points with our scoring system of 10 for a first, 8 for a second, 7 for a third meant that with some combination of first, second, and third, you could be live in two games fairly easily. Today, not the case. If you want to be live by game three, you got to win both lobbies. And if you want to shut this tournament down in 3 games, you got to go back to back to back first places to lock it up. That's the only way. So it's likely that we're going to not only see an extra game or two today, but it's likely that we're going to have a few people live when someone first starts to be live.
Yeah, that's even more content potentially for us, and I'm okay with that. And speaking of content, I'm not 100% sure if the players are ready, but if they are ready, I think we'd like to go ahead and hop in and
One
get this thing going.
one more thing to point out though, just in case anybody's confused today, the top 8 from yesterday were listed. However, RJ was unable to participate today, had other engagements, something else going on. So we grab the next person down, the ninth place by points finisher. That's Pappy Garagos. So you'll see a different name in the lobbies today than you may have seen on the announcement yesterday. I wanted to point that out. But I'm with you, Yuck. If we got a lobby ready, I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, that means Pappy is playing with house money here. Nothing to lose. Didn't necessarily expect to be playing. So maybe you play extra greedy and play every chameleon, for
Well,
instance. I mean, that's just one thing you can do.
it's a good way to sometimes get something a little bit earlier than you're supposed to have it. I can't see any fault in the logic, Yuck.
Yeah, well, we'll have to keep an eye out. This is going to be on a different patch than the previous tournament, so different players may adjust differently into tournament play. So they've all had the chance to play on ladder, but you sometimes adjust accordingly. Maybe play a little more tempo based, and as I mentioned in Pappy's case, maybe some of these players will want to play more aggressive and more greedy. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out.
Absolutely. And we are looking at a countdown, you and I both. I believe we got 3 seconds until game time, and we're jumping right in. As you had mentioned, we're going to keep an eye on Give Free Roll Back, aka Zillalag. Looking at a hero select, we got Fisher King, Ares, Sphinx, and Hercules. What do you like here?
I'll say these seem reasonable. None of these jump off of the screen at me as being an auto pick, but they all feel playable. I know a lot of people do really enjoy Sphinx right now. I'm not sure if Zillaleg is one of those people or not, but I could see this going any one of these four ways.
Well, while the Sphinx is currently highlighted, I believe Zillalag picked Fisher King and locked it in. You may not know, but once you confirm, it will allow you to click another hero and their frame will pop up and highlight, but you have selected whoever you initially selected. So I think we're about to see a Fisher King game. And in a format where you really got to rack up a lot of points really fast, knowing that there's no shot for you to be live in 3 games with anything less than a first place finish, Fisher King has the kind of capacity, if you can have a good early game, and yep, we are the Fisher King, where you get that level 5 treasure when you hit level 5, and that gives you a lot of power to start navigating your way into the late game. So, no major qualms here, and pretty straightforward first shop, it's looking like to me.
Yeah, Incredible Shop, you are able to play the spell to get the freed prince, and looks like we're locking for the short sword, which is fantastic economy. And with Fisher King, if you can get the early game tempo, maybe that even allows you to play some experience at some point later to get your hero ability sooner. Not to mention higher level characters sooner. So, generally, I would say in tournaments, it's hard to find the right spot to play experience, but maybe this will lead into that for us.
Wow, and Fausti with one of those rare not taking damage to a 5/5 on turn 1 type boards must have found a sweet oranges in there, because Fausti playing the Wayward Sisters, the way that works is you can cast your spells directly on the shop, and then there's a grow effect for the cost of the spell, the gold cost. So if it's a 0 cost spell on level 2, the first level of the game, that spell will double up. We saw 2 extra stats on that beast, so clearly there was a sweet oranges in the shop that got cast on the shop, and then we got a 5/3 to match up to Zillilag's turn 1, or Give Free Rollbacks turn 1 5/5. Sorry, I'll be stumbling back and forth with the nomenclature all day on Zillilag here.
Yeah, of course. That just means that we've seen give free rollbacks for shop and the Wayward Sisters, and they were both incredible turn ones. So everybody else in the lobby, if they didn't have such a great turn one shop, they're going to be behind at this point, and we're going into a combat against Treasure Hamster. We have a small imp is a 4/3 and unyielding. Not to mention this freed prince. So I don't think we're so worried about taking damage. Our opponent maybe should be a little concerned though, and we do in fact deal a little bit of damage here.
Yeah, the 2x2 hero attack starting on Fisher King's kind of a big deal. If the Treasure Hamster had that same 2x2 starting hero attack, that would have been a draw that last combat. They managed to clean up and take the Freed Prince down to just 2 HP remaining, but Treasure Hamster doesn't get any kind of early game acceleration, right? Treasure Hamster's acceleration is when that first treasure gets made, and just how important, impactful, whatever that first treasure can do. So yeah, Zillalag here, free roll, getting a really nice start. Now, we took a hot potato, looked at a second shop because we had to freshen up, right? We could see a free shop, but not a lot to love in here. Looks like we're taking some more small imps.
Well, our economy is really solid here. We have two swords, and we also have a hot potato. Let me mention how much I love the hot potato, by the way. We are going to get rid of the hot potato for a pretty big boost in current board power with that shield page. But I really, really like the hot potato. It's a lot of fun. But even after selling it, we're going into level 3 next turn with two short swords. And that gives us the flexibility to potentially pick up 2 3 drops next turn.
That hot potato is giving you a lot of flexibility in your play right now. And I gotta imagine we probably wanted to keep it, but after that scout, you noticed it went away, and then all of a sudden we have the 5 attacker because everything on Garagos' board there had 5 health. It looked like at the start of the fight. Now when the happy retrievers finally go down, then a little bit of the stat share is because of the aura effect on the retriever, giving all the animals a slight buff. But smart play. We don't take
Yeah.
damage really, and well, we're down. We're down. We take a little bit of damage, but we're down to 27. It's still very healthy at this stage of the game.
Well, we've done damage to ourselves with these imps and the demons deals, but taking the shield page, swapping out the hot potato for that shield page, did prevent us from taking more damage because we were barely able to get a tie even with the shield page. So well done by Zillalag. So here, this isn't necessarily the shop you're hoping to see for this turn. The Kappa, can be effective and the crew member. So with the Kappa in slot 5, it can actually see slot 4 to gain the buffs. So this is a good way to guarantee that you're going to get some scaling instead of the Kappa on the front row that appears to always have taunt and just gets attacked first. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
You're not. You're not. It really feels like the Kappa gets entirely targeted on the front row. Kappa is the only character in the game, only unit in the game that works this way, that considers slot 5 and 4 adjacent for the purposes of its effect. So if you have a Galahad, something else that says adjacent, it's not going to think these two slots are side by side. But for Kappa, like you said, it works. And Skooky
It
with a
does.
big parrot, but that hits probably the wrong target. So too many stats on our cap already for a trophy hunter, which starts with a lot of attack, a lot of capacity to fight back, but that trophy hunter board just couldn't handle what we had so far.
Yeah, I wonder if the trophy hunter is holding a character in hand as well with that parrot and being trophy hunter. So maybe not playing their strongest board, but after taking that amount of damage, they're going to have to really consider playing their strongest board, I think, sooner rather than later. So here's a cat box that works potentially pretty well with the young Kappa. Uh, Zillaleg looks like considering a couple of different lines here. The pirate cook, so with some of the changes in the most recent patch, I think hand summons were already strong. I'm thinking they're going to be even a little bit stronger. I know you watched some of the games yesterday, Horse. Was that what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. People with recent patch buffs to hand summon mechanics and a slight change around of a couple of different things, they seem to be the flavor right now. They seem to be in favor right now. We saw a lot of pirate boards being built, a lot of Captain Hooks, a lot of Long John Silvers. I wouldn't be shocked to see a fair amount of hand summoning happening here today.
And Ori is a pretty strong pickup, even just with the one item that we have. It's unyielding. It gives extra stats to the small imp, which is also unyielding. So just a decent jump in power for us. We're locking here. Are we
I think
locking for the future
future vision.
vision?
I think
Yeah,
it's the future vision that's
yeah, I
caught my
think
eye
it
this
is as
whole
well.
turn.
Yeah. So this is going back to what I mentioned earlier, as far as if you have a good early game, you might be able to find a place to play experience, and I believe that's what we're going to see here.
Now the
Although,
pirate cooks are interesting too, since you were talking about them hand summons. But no, it was the
yeah,
future vision. It was the future vision the whole time. I was gonna mention future vision when I saw Fisher King because no hero at this moment in my mind is more of a future vision loving hero than Fisher King, because if you can spike that level 5 treasure pretty quick, you can get a lot of benefit from that, and you can actually rely on that to keep you healthy through level 5. The part of level 4 that you would normally be in, but also 4 and 5 effectively, and then that way you're just kind of setting yourself up for the end game. You don't have to focus so much on building tempo to survive. You get your hero power, you get your treasure, and then you can start focusing on, okay, well, now how do I build this board for the later game?
yeah, well said. We're also in that same shop since we had 7 gold total. we were able to pick up a boost ring, which is going to help us because of the Ori. And then also, it's just decent economy buying something that costs two here when you have two gold left over. Because when you future vision, you start seeing characters that cost more than your normal gold curve. So any
Mhm.
extra economy that you can come across helps you buy these higher level characters a little bit quicker.
As a well-known Icarus player, Yuckmouth, I know you have been in that spot too many times. Maybe well-known Icarus player isn't the
Yeah.
exact right, but I know you've been playing more Icarus lately, and you've been skipping those 3 turns and finding yourself on level 4 on turn 4. Those are some
Well,
weird turns.
sometimes four turns. I have skipped four turns before
You have wow. Okay, you're a
with mixed
maniac.
results. Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend that in the tournament setting. However,
Well, I was looking at the scout, and Swift appears to have a lot more stats than we do currently. However, the unyielding on those imps really did a lot of work, and we actually end up winning the fight. Swift needing to use the hero attack to turn it into a draw. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't think we had the stats to match up.
yeah, it didn't look like we had the stats, but as you mentioned, the unyielding helps, and then the kappa, of course, was growing throughout that combat. That certainly didn't hurt. So we're into the next shop. We are maybe considering a book mage as a crew member. So the crew member pair is pretty decent here, I would say. Nothing that's super amazing. I do happen to know that Give Free Roll Back, aka Zillalag, really likes the daggers
Hmm.
and likes some specific strategies that are built around these daggers. So this seems like a
Oh,
good turn to pick up.
perhaps a strategy with like a dwarf that maybe you and Zillalag talked about. Maybe there's a.
Possibly. Let's see if we get there. We'll talk about it some more if we do. But it all does start, that strategy does all start with getting a dagger at the right time. And this is the earliest that we can get that dagger because this is actually natural 4.0. Since we played Future Vision, you don't see it when you look at our screen, but this is actually natural 4.0. So we'll get a treasure next turn from our hero as well as some 5 drops in the shop. At least hopefully we'll get some 5 drops in the shop and we might be off to the races because we're still healthy here.
One thing we've seen consistently, it's just proven true time and time again. Give Free Rollback is an incredibly creative player and understands this game incredibly well. And I think we saw Give Free Rollback experimenting with Tempe prior to other people really realizing just how good Tempe could be. Now, that's not entirely, it's not like Give Free Rollback was the only person buying and playing Tempes, but really limit testing and figuring out how to make these daggers really pay off later, like you're saying.
Yeah, there are always going to be some players that like to find the new thing and what has not been explored. Um, yeah, Give Free Rollback is definitely a player that is looking to push the envelope a bit. Um, So we see Shard of Excalibur, Symbol of Unity. I can't even read through them because there's Celestial Harp on there, and
Yeah.
Celestial Harp is just massive. We were talking about
Yeah.
tempo and how that can allow you to do other things more freely. There's also a new U in the shop, and not only some fives, but one specific five that I really like. I don't know if we're gonna pick it up. That Portal Wardrobe is calling my name.
Portal Wardrobe with the Celestial. I mean, it looks like Zillalag is really thinking it's got to be Harp. You love Symbol. Well, I love Symbol of Unity. I love Divine Messenger. Both of those need something else to make them useful, right? They're very strong in their own right if you got the right setup, the right units on your board. Whereas with Celestial Harp, Portal Wardrobe plus Catnip Bottle, who's beating this board in this fight,
Yeah,
this turn of this
I,
game? Who's beating this board?
I don't need to see the rest of the boards to say nobody. So yeah, we don't have to worry about losing for a couple of turns. And not only do we have the harp unlocked, look at our summons. We have the
Yeah,
crew member on board. We picked up a portal wardrobe and a catnip. We already also had the cat box summoning from the crew member and then the other crew member. I mean, we have a ridiculous amount of stats for the given turn.
this is absurd. And I think I just caught Zillalag screenshotting the turn. Now, a little
Yeah.
known side note: yesterday we were playing the games. We heard this. I heard it through the grapevine when it was happening live. But Zillalag, I think, plays mobily for the most part. I think Zillalag may be competing in this. Definitely, they were competing in yesterday's day one run out on mobile. And somewhere in the middle of the day, Zillalag somehow managed to drop the phone and sell off half the board in the process. So we're hoping for steady fingers for Give Free Rollback today.
Yeah, I do know that they're primarily a mobile player. I'm not wishing anything bad, but like, I want to see how that happened. You know, like I'm sorry that happened. I want to.
Yeah.
I want video. Like I need to see how you sell half of your board while dropping your phone. Not that I want that to be recreated. I certainly don't. So I also really want to see what's inside that portal wardrobe, but we're nowhere close to seeing in this combat because our opponent can't even get through the front row, which
I
is
mean, if
no
that
shock
portal
here.
wardrobe stays slot 7, we're not going to see for a minute. Fausty, I kind of feel bad. Wayward Sisters, right, playing a good board for this turn of the game. You got to remember we're 2 experience up. That was still level 4 for Fausty, and we're over here with a Celestial Harp and a portal wardrobe and a catnip and a bot. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the hero of Future Vision in my mind. The things you can do with it. With the harp, we might not even need the harp to be our game winner, but for right now, weirdly, if the game goes well enough, we might be able to apply enough pressure with this harp to just start knocking people out. Maybe this is the game-winning treasure potentially.
I don't know if just these generic stats are going to carry us to first, but it will definitely speed up the lobby. It's also worth mentioning that opponent RNG comes into play, not so much for us, a little bit for us, because we want the opportunity to knock players out and people that are in a spot to potentially compete in the late game. If you can deal damage to them early, even if you don't knock them out, might adjust their game plan, might force them into an uncomfortable situation. But for our opponents, nobody wants to face this right now. And if you do, you're taking some amount of damage. So everybody on that list at the top is going to be crossing their fingers and hoping that they're not matched up against our board that we're looking at right now. It's just way ahead of curve.
It's so telling to look at these scouts and to see that everybody's last turn board, and from what I'm seeing, the largest characters that people are making by this stage of the game are roughly 2020s. There's a 3228 catnip bottle that shares half its stats with the resummon, right? We have several characters that match or are larger than everybody else's largest thing they've managed to build thus far.
Well, it's like we have double the stats of anybody just if you look at our starting board, but then we have double that amount of stats when you factor in the amount of summons. So it's like we're 4x, or at least it feels like we're 4x of our opponents. Although Max has a
Yeah.
pretty formidable board, it's not going to be able to compete here, but that one hurts. You're taking so much damage all the way down to 6 health with a strong board. Um, what can you do? I mean, the answer is nothing.
You can dodge Zillag, or that Max might have, that might be the second strongest board in this lobby. That we might have just seen currently the 2 strongest boards in the lobby match up. That Max board was incredibly convincing for this turn of this game. Already a
Yeah.
Crystal Sage, yeah. I mean, that board's it had a full treasure set of mage related treasures on a full mage board. Thing is
Yeah.
cooking, but just can't
And
handle
treasure
this.
hamster. So if
Yeah.
treasure hamster gets the wiggle room to get to these super high level treasures, then it really takes off. But as I mentioned, deal damage to them now, might have to change their game plan, might not be able to play as greedy, might just force them into a spot where they run into another strong board and get knocked out. So we'll keep an eye on that. We do still have all 8 players in the lobby right now. We're on turn 10. So we get the first place player, the leprechaun. I don't remember for sure. That may have been Zekatron. I'll have to look and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, once we knock them down in health, and I'm assuming that we could lose a player, maybe even 2 this round.
Oh, so Zekatron may have some cats jumping out of hand, it looked like, from that scout. But yeah, this is. I mean, we pick up another vampire dagger, another blue vampire dagger this turn. So Zillalag clearly thinking about more angles than just I have big chonkers now and I have celestial. Zillalag has options going forward. It just everything seems to be going our way at the moment. Now that Skooky sleigh board looks like it's shaping up pretty interestingly. Zekatron is on our data list.
Something I noticed, Horace, is Skooky on the Trophy Hunter has not taken damage since they took damage from us very early in the game. So I had said that maybe they were holding a big character back and not playing their strongest board. I have to think that must have been true now in hindsight, because to be able to now make it through several more rounds without taking damage, I don't know what that character was. I wasn't looking closely enough, but uh, it's not going to keep up with what we have. But sounds like they've done well for themselves.
This looks like a really strong board here for Pepe Garagos. We got good Leprechaun, which is a lot of tempo provided in the early game, and it gets through one character on our board
Yeah.
in full. One character goes down from our starting board effectively.
Yeah. There's a supply cabinet, which seems to fit very well on this board for a couple of different reasons. It might lead you into playing a cat queen or something later, but it's just a lot of stats. And we can put 2 6-drops on this board somewhere if we choose to do so.
We seem to be
without
touching this
turning off the
Frank's
horror.
monster quite a bit.
Yeah, this goes back to the dagger strategies that we were talking about. This, for me, I don't know that this is the spot that you need to do that, but it wouldn't shock me if Zillalag wants to go that route. We'll see.
I am with you. I think the supply cabinet is the more immediately obvious. Yeah, this just works great with what we got already. I wonder. Zillag's over there scheming, and hopefully not scheming so much that they overthink everything, but a little bit of scheming might be good.
Yeah, generally has been playing the turns pretty quickly and has been super decisive. So there's some thought going on here, but this could be a turn that really decides your long-term plan. You know, if you want to go the Frank's monster route, there is the potential to make a really strong board, but it's going to lead to some very different decisions as opposed to, let's say, taking the haymaker instead. So taking time, making sure to make the right decision. There is the cat queen. I don't know if there's anything really to say at this point. Like,
Cat queen, supply cabinet, 2 catnip bottles, box of cats, 3 hand summoners. We even have a portal wardrobe because that's really awesome too. Yeah, like you said, what else do you? This is a good setup. This is a good spot. This is a spot you're happy to be in, and even being able to continue getting Celestial Harp online while boarding a succubus too. Why not? Because you might as well add some scam to it too. If you're ahead in stats, you might as well scam on top of it.
And the crazy thing is with the harp, it doesn't feel like we're sacrificing anything. Sometimes it feels like, oh, I have 3 5-drops and I can't play all 3 of them. But that's not an issue for us. We have multiple 5-drops. One of them is on board, but 2 of them we can just summon from hand. So we still get to keep the harp buff.
We're so spoiled for choice, we're not even using the portal wardrobe this time around. Well, Skookie's got a really convincing slay setup. The Nocturnes aren't charging giant stars, but the Hermes does get to slay twice to start the combat. The Parrot does not take out the Cat Queen, though, so no shot that Skookie's getting through the rest of this.
I mean, you said it, right? You said a convincing board, and for the turn, that was a convincing board, but it's just not remotely close. So there might be somebody in here that is going to give us some problems. We haven't found them yet. We do see some boards start to look a little bit bigger as we're scouting, and some of them are shaping up. I'm not worried, though, if I'm being honest.
Not yet, no. I'm feeling pretty comfy just with our Celestial Harp stats so far. Noticing we are now top 6 GG well played. 2 have been eliminated, and not a lot of health in the lobby. If you added everybody up and ignored give free rollback, they would all add up to about 1 full health hero at this point. Good Leprechaun doing better than everybody else who's not named give free rollback, but you can see the pressure. It's mounting just from the early damage that Zillalag was able to deliver here. Anybody that Zillalag has had to fight is looking a little less healthy from having to do it.
Well, the pressure that you're talking about, look at the treasure hamster. Finished in 8th place, and when we saw the treasure hamster, we said that could potentially be the second strongest board in the lobby, and it felt that way. So that's what a board like this does. It's just maximum tempo, and come on. No, don't. Zillalag, don't. We don't need the chrono crystal. Don't.
It's so silly though, because
I can't.
actually a good call, but oh, it feels so wrong in some regards. But it is a good call because this is Fairy Tale Fables, and often you need a couple of different power spikes to get to that first place finish that Zillilag's hunting right now, right? Zillilag got a giant power spike. The Future Vision into Celestial Harp has kept Zillilag able to fight all the way into level 6, no problem. No one's able to come close. Someone might be catching up here shortly, and Zillilag might actually fall behind. And it doesn't look right now like we'll get anything from this Chrono Crystal, but you kind of still take it, I guess.
To be fair, the other options weren't really tempting, but it feels like we're so far ahead. I mean, I don't disagree that you can definitely justify taking the crystal here. The opponent that we're facing, Zekatron, I believe also has a crystal. Yeah, they do, in
Right.
fact. So I don't know. It's just one of those situations where do we really, really need to take it? Well, we have it now. And we also see inside that portal wardrobe was a back protector all along.
Well, Zekatron losing the Chrono Crystal there, still alive on one, so not out. Zekatron had a really large Tempe, and I noticed Zillilag hovering over that while scouting all the different boards. I wondered if it was covetously, because we know we talked about Tempe a little bit already with Zillilag, but uh, again, looks like Leprechaun might have taken a little bit of damage. Sundiata probably didn't, but lobby health dwindling again, but not give free roll back. We are still over here cruising. Is that another supply cabinet?
It's worth noting that we're spending a lot of time scouting instead
Mm-hmm.
of playing our own turn right now. I do think there are some players that take full advantage of this scouting mechanic, maybe more than others. Uh, I personally find myself scouting sometimes more later in the turn, or maybe scouting my current opponent early, just a brief look, and then scouting the rest of the lobby later. But we see get free roll back, keeping an eye on everybody and what everybody is doing, and maybe trying to angle in a way that's going to be good, not only for their upcoming combat, but for the lobby as a whole.
Glad you pointed that out because I think we're going to see a lot of that today, more so than you, not you personally, Yuck, but you, the general, more so than even I scout when I'm playing this game. But I think one of the big key things is these folks who are playing here today, they understand how power gets built in this game, and they understand what they understand where they're going and where they're planning and what they're seeing and where the shops are leading them, but they also understand based on scouting other people's boards early proactively every single turn. They understand how their opponents are growing and building and how that might be a whammy for them later, so that there are no actual whammies for give free roll back. Free roll Zillilag is anticipating nearly everything that could be a problem later and planning ahead for those whammies, making sure that nobody is just absolutely gearing up into something that's going to just come out of nowhere and slap 15 damage down on free roll. It's just not going to happen. The scouting is going to be there all day long.
Yeah, and we're seeing the effect from that. We spend 6 gold on a fire mage that we have no intention of playing this round because it looks like it could be good against one of the other opponents. So well done. I like planning ahead like this. We'll see if it ends up being relevant in the grand scheme of things, but definitely setting up for not just this opponent, but for everybody. I want to see what this golden portal wardrobe has. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but give us something spicy here.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know if it,
spicy.
yeah, I
Mixes
don't
the
know if it's
cat queen.
spicy. Yeah, it
Imagine
could
if
have
that
been
takes out the
spicy.
cat queen, though. That Tengu could have been interesting. However, Pappy Garagos with the Silent Bell just kind of looks like it's the weaker Celestial Harp, unfortunately. Silent Bell recently changed to be better than it was before, but it's no Celestial Harp. It's still a lower tier treasure. Can't keep up with the stats. We're already in top four, Yuck. It's turn
In top
14.
four, yeah, and the trophy hunter who was the lowest health player by maybe that was turn 3 or 4, has managed to hang on and made it to the top four. So with another treasure potentially from this supply cabinet, we absolutely take it, and we are going to see mage gloves, cinnamoni stone, and orchestra. Do we just go for stats with orchestra ever?
That's kind of where my eye is going. If we think that we're okay, I might be keen on the Cinnamoni Stone, but looking at the health of the lobby, this thing could be over in 2 fights. So I think it's
Yeah.
Orchestra for me. I'm with you.
Yeah, because of the speed of the lobby, orchestra is not always the level 6 you're looking for, certainly, but we have summons. We have a fire mage that might benefit in some instances from the extra stats. And as you mentioned, we're just trying to end this one sooner rather than later, we might be able to do that.
Oh, and here comes a second Fire Mage. Now, is this Sundiata board? I saw a board that was relying heavily on boost. Has Zillalag scouted here recently? Is this that board? It might be.
Yeah, I believe that it is. And I don't know that it would be worth locking for, but that wolf bait is, it's
Mm,
something you could consider. Although with the harp, although we're just ignoring the harp, or we're going to continue ignoring it, I think we're debating that right now.
yeah. I mean, the wolf bait slowing down the supply cabinet is a lot of value, as you're pointing out here. Oh, and now we're starting to see why Skookie on the treasure
Mm.
hamster, the trophy hunter, was able to keep that low health pool cooking. That's a really strong hero ability, doubling the slay effects, especially with things like Woman of the Moon. If you can hit any treasures where you can enhance that even further.
We do have a board that could struggle against a strong slay board as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if those women in the moon, if the women in the moon get too big, it doesn't really matter how many summons we send flying at them. That's
Okay,
gonna really come down to fire mage hits here.
here's that Sundiata board, and we had scouted. They are very vulnerable to back row disruption with a King Arthur setup. We get a Fire Mage hit that's going to be very effective, and it's going to take out two of the boost characters. Then we're going to take out the other boost character. The Arthur is still just hanging out, waiting to do nothing.
That's a big Arthur, but wow, just enough damage to take down to -1. And GG, well played. Top 3, turn 15.
Yeah, those Arthur boards can work out well, but they're very, very vulnerable to back row disruption, as we
Mhm.
saw. And with the scouting that we did ahead of time to prepare for that specific combat, there's just not much they could do. They're just vulnerable to the fire mage attacks.
I kind of feel, Yuck, like we're witnessing the plucky little orphans fighting back against the evil rich tycoon. Honestly, looking back at that Sundiata game in retrospect, if I look at it from Sundiata's perspective, I feel like there might be an emergency succubus hoping that it takes out the two things that are most important to take out on the front line. And let's just hope that the Arthur pops in time, because you look at the stat difference again. We have not fallen behind on stats yet this game when you match it up, except maybe to Skookie's Slayboard. Skookie's Slayboard may have surpassed us now, but outside of that, we've just been a tank over here.
And we're not getting Skookie this fight. Skookie is going to face the ghost, so we're going to take on the Wayward Sisters. We do, in fact, play the wolf here. Another Cat Queen. I don't know if it's going to find its way on board,
Looks like it'll at
but
least make its way to the bench.
okay.
Replacing the Tailor.
I think this is one of those that depends on what your opponent has, and I wasn't looking closely enough while we were scouting. But it looks like we are going to play the second Cat Queen instead of the Fire Mage. Maybe there was a chair on this board, so you wouldn't want the Fire Mage if that is the case. You played the Tailor instead. I'm sure, yeah, it is a chair. Okay.
Oh, it's an Excalibur board.
Yeah, it sure is. And going to summon potentially a Portal Wardrobe into that slot 1. Unless that's what it was last turn, unless something changes, and I'm up for that.
Yeah, with the chair and with a potential 500 attack something or other coming down, the Tailor does seem to make a lot more sense than a Fire Mage. It's probably going to get half its damage or 3/4 of its damage nullified.
Okay, top 3, we have a lot of health. The other 2 players do not, so we're either going to end this one soon, or we're in for a battle where we're going to have to try to solve a puzzle. So let's see, can we knock out Fausti? Portal Wardrobe might have something to say about that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of scam over on Fausti's side of the board. I am looking at a board that looks like it can fight back against Give Free Roll back here. Really is going to depend heavily on what that Dr. Frankenstein can summon, and they're not the best with that mirror in slot 7.
No, they weren't. Needed better summons from the Dr. Frank. It did look like they had a chance. Just the number of summons, the sheer number of characters that were being thrown at us, felt like it might be able to keep up, but just wasn't able to. However, we keep going back to it. Oh, we see a swap into Savitri. So this
Oh,
isn't going to be the last fight. So,
yeah, you noticed that before I did. Oh, Fate Scissors, Cat Altar, Hero Helix. Looks like we're going for the scam
yeah.
option. The Cat Altar can add a lot of stats, but is it useful against Women in the Moon?
Honestly, I think the stats at this point would mainly matter if we can get above the range of the Hermes being able to slay, and we're
Hmm.
not really close to that. It's a pretty sizable Hermes. There are also some things you can do to try to prevent that slay, like play a character with the shield. Um, so we'll see if there are some tech options or if we just want to play this somewhat straightforward. I do like the Fate Scissors pickup for sure, though.
Yeah, I do too. And this Golden King looks pretty appealing. We're already playing a slot down
Hmm.
for our Golden Crew member, so that does seem like the obvious pick here. Looks like we finally are going to get rid of the harp. Now we don't have to worry about the harp restriction anymore. Lose a few stats, but that should be well more than made up for with two Golden Cat Queens.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. We have 4 gold left in this turn. Maybe we can pick up a combat spell here. We're looking, but nothing here in this shop looks especially appealing.
Yeah, looks like
Take that
we.
back. The furnace is quite nice on these daggers. You can stack the stats and then put them all on that one fire mage. Yeah, nice one there.
I was kind of with you though. I was thinking combat spell more than let's juice up this dagger. It's certainly nice. We don't mind doing it, but no real disruption. So that Hermes is going to do something. We are not interrupting that Hermes in any way, shape, or form. That Hermes is
Right.
going to get that hit in.
We do have a fire mage though. The question is, if that Hermes slays, how big does this woman in the moon get? No
Yeah.
longer trophy hunter, so
Oh,
you do trade off some value by switching to Savitri.
well, and we got rid of our Chrono Crystal too. So this whole thing, everything's changed a little bit. Hermes takes the catnip out and does not survive because of Fate's scissors. Those women in the moon are not quite 4 digits apiece. Scamming the tailor, or well, hitting the tailor there is quite good. I'm not convinced there are enough stats on the women in the moon remaining to finish out the fight.
Well, that's 950 health on the one in the back, so
Here comes a
yeah,
big
I don't think it's going to
sacrifice.
be enough. Yeah, we just keep throwing more and more things at the board, and these things are pretty large because of the Cat Queens with Golden King. And yeah, we do in fact win against Skooky, and they had
GG.
switched into Savitri. Did they lose the Savitri revive against the Ghost potentially?
I think they must have because that revive was not there for that fight, and they were already mischievous Bruni by the time we saw him.
Yeah, yeah. So I will say, well played. If you
Yeah.
needed that revive against the Ghost to get second as opposed to third, well done by Skooky. Again, we saw Skooky low health very early in the game and was able to make the right amount of adjustments or decisions or whatever it was. We didn't get to see it firsthand to make it all the way to second place. But of course, GG to give free roll back. We're not shocked to see a win from a great player, and then with I mean, just what do you say about that Fisher King game? You got future vision into an early harp. There were a lot of great decisions. The scouting ahead was relevant,
Hmm.
so very well played, of course. But when you get a great start like that with a great player, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
I mean, that, yeah, like you're saying, that was just really well played. Good job knowing the hero, good job knowing the scouting to be prepared for anything that may come, and good job taking that first treasure and making the absolute most of it to make it all the way to the very end game. And, the treasure didn't make it with us through the end. We didn't need the Celestial Harp for the final fight, but it's what set us up to get there.
All right, Horse, let's give these players just a couple of minutes to take a quick break. We'll take one as well, and we'll be back briefly. Don't go anywhere, and then we'll be back with game number 2.
Looking forward to it. All right, y'all, welcome back. We are geared up for game two. The lobby is forming up, and yuck. Game one was all give free rollback all the time. Game two, though, we're going to take a look at Skookie this time around.
Yeah, we saw Skookie navigate a game in a very different manner from the one that we witnessed. We were healthy and strong, it felt like, throughout the game. Skookie, however, went to low health. We talked about this already, was able to still make the top two. Let's see if Skookie has a similar game or maybe can stay healthy this time and not have to panic potentially when you get to low health. But we're going to spectate Skookie. We will have some things to call out here, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, Horace, but we got information. So this is the first month that you could qualify through asynchronous gameplay, and we do have a couple of players in this top 8 that did qualify through asynchronous gameplay. So Fausty is primarily an asynchronous player, so shout out to Fausty. And then Dr. Anansi plays both. Very clearly has a lot of games in both, but did qualify through asynchronous gameplay. So shout out to Fausty and Dr. Anansi for getting here using that method.
Absolutely. I got to admit, I touched on it when we were talking about it before game one. I wonder what it's like for Fausty, because as you mentioned, Dr. Anansi clearly plays both modes, qualified through async. Fausty qualified through async and apparently doesn't necessarily play a ton of sync on the ladder. So I wonder just how the experience, what it's like to go from the one universe to the other, how that feels. Clearly didn't phase Fausty at all. Made it here today. And made it here convincingly too, as one of the top point scorers yesterday.
Yeah, there has to be a noticeable difference for sure. It's just different when your opponents are going to adjust, and not only adjust, but maybe looking to adjust 2 or 3 turns ahead of time, as we saw give free roll back scouting multiple turns ahead. So maybe Fausty can adjust right alongside that. So it looks like the players are getting ready here. We'll get into that shortly. Before we do, though, a couple things we should shout out, Horace. We, of course, want to shout out Turn Individual for sponsoring the tournament yet again, I should
Huge
say.
shout out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Turn Individual, for helping to allow this to happen. And then also big thanks for all the support. Anybody that supported the Kickstarter, thank you, everyone.
And this is where we'll shout out Cool Dad Shorts for the idea in the first place, for sure. Big shout out to Cool Dad Shorts. That Kickstarter has turned out to be just absolutely wonderful. People absolutely love the idea. We all want our pets' faces in the game. It seems like a no-brainer in retrospect, but that's really great.
Yep. And if you're here and could use some more crystals, well, you should redeem the crystal code, !crystals in chat. For a crystal code that's only going to be live during the duration of this stream. So make sure you grab that before we're done today.
Yep, that code is monthly-June, but you will see that, like Yuck said, with an ! crystals in the chat any given time throughout the broadcast. But after the broadcast, it's done.
All right, I don't think we want to keep these players waiting. I'm sure they're ready to go. I'm ready to go. Are you ready, Horse?
I am ready to go. Do we have a... I was looking at a lobby, but I think I was looking at stale information. Yeah, we got a full lobby. Let's fire it up. Let's do it.
Okay, we'll let our other member of the team, Livy Live, shout out to Livy, who's running some things in the background. Yeah, Livy's going to coordinate that, and right on cue, we're hopping straight into the lobby.
I feel a little bad, actually. I generally think I would have shouted Livy out right at the top of the broadcast, but Livy will be with us, making sure that this whole thing runs seamlessly all day long. And without Livy, we would be rudderless in the ocean. So, yeah, big shout out to you, Livy. Thank you so much.
Rudderless in the ocean. I like that.
Yeah, that's how it would feel. All right, Skookie's looking at Gene, Treasure Hamster, Morgan Le Fay, and Odin, the All-Knowing. Some good heroes here, actually.
I'm going to speak on your behalf and say Treasure Hamster, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want. Granted, you got to take top one, right? That's kind of the goal you're shooting for pretty much all day long. In a race format, your top one is really on top of your mind. So you got to pick the hero that you think is going to give you the best chance to get you there. I, of course, am a big Treasure Hamster enthusiast, but it looks like Skookie might favor Odin.
Yeah, Treasure Hamster has some first place equity, but sometimes suffers if you don't find the treasure early enough. This, I think, not only is power level that you're picking from, but also a bit of comfort level. Sometimes you prioritize tempo more so in tournaments as well. We'll continue to talk about that throughout the day because it's
Yeah.
just something worth noting. Looks like Odin. Maybe we can get into some mages potentially.
Oh, Sweet Orange is not the spell you were hoping for in your opening shop when you pick Odin, but not bad because you do just kind of want a targeted spell because you get the buff whether or not you got a spell discount. So, the food stats will go away next turn, but Odin does give an extra +1/1 on the buff when you cast a spell. So, Skookie getting a shield page, getting a permanent stat on it, not bad.
Yeah, that short sword is something that I would love to have, but this shop isn't very tempting to keep. So it looks like we're not going to consider that short sword and hope for a good shop next turn.
Now, this is very interesting. We're gonna have always that disparity in the first 6 turns, levels 2 and 3, between heroes that have a hero power that works right away and heroes that don't get any value from their hero until later. Max on the amateur there, opting to play an empty board. Not sure what Max purchased on turn 1 there. Didn't have enough hero attack to tie it up with Skookie, but kind of predictably so. And here we're looking at a probable talking frog into freed prince, another step up. Anyway, we get immediate value and we get another spell buff as long as we find spells that we can target. Oh, well, so much
Yeah.
for speculating on this one. Looks like we're going to have a restart. I wonder if some folks didn't make it in.
Yep. We don't have the full information as to why the lobby needs a restart, but we have been informed that something went wrong. So Skookie is potentially a little bummed because what an incredible start that we're going to have to give up, unfortunately. So we'll let
Three
them.
spells in the first 2 turns, dude. 3 spells.
Yeah, and the frog flipped into the frog prince, a massive amount of stats. But looks like that's not going to end up being important. So we'll let them take the time to get that reorganized and set back up. Um, so interesting, the heroes that we're seeing there, Horace. We saw Odin, our upcoming opponent in that combat was going to be Savitri. Not necessarily the heroes that I would expect to be top of the list for people to want to pick in a tournament here in the top 8 especially.
It's so tricky because you want to win. You want to have a chance to win. You want your hero to somehow put you in the right direction to where you can be in that situation where you can take that first place finish. But sometimes the hero selects are not offering you the 4 heroes that would be your favorite for that scenario. So, like when you saw that Savitri coming up that you mentioned, I wonder what that hero select looked like.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. What are you picking Savitri ahead of? And you can improve your placement with Savitri, just that revive allowing you to outlast a player or two. But it's not that likely to get first in my experience with Savitri. So it could be a points angle. And speaking of points, the number of points needed to be live in this race format went up for this month's tournament. It's up to 19. So you're gonna need to get 19 points before you have the opportunity to win a lobby and win the tournament. So maybe you're just trying to increase your points enough to be live, a couple games from now. Speaking of a couple games from now, the only player that has a chance to be live after 2 more games is Give Free Roll back because
Mhm.
you talked about this earlier, Horse. 19 points means you're going to have to win a couple games in a row to get there. Otherwise, it's going to take at least 3 games.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. First and the second is only worth 18 points in total. So those 10-point finishes are going to be huge. Looks like we are resetting the lobby, so we should be right back into the action. I suppose, Yuck, as we wait for this one to kick back off, and it looks like the lobby is mostly full. I was gonna do a shout out, but I think they're about to get started, so I think I'm gonna delay that shout out till later. We'll stay focused on the upcoming game here because it looks like it's not going to take too long to get set back up.
Okay. And of course, good luck to all these players and congratulations just for making it through day 1 to be here with us today. So, waiting on game number 2. We're missing one player in this lobby. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long. I still am a little curious what happened with that lobby while we had to restart.
I wonder if there
Um,
was a misfire. We've bumped into those. occasionally, sporadically in the past. Just seeing Max having an empty board on that first turn of the fight, I got the sense that
Yeah.
maybe somehow not everybody made it in, in time for hero select. Could have, there are some little technical difficulties that pop up from time to time. Unfortunately, it's sad that we lost the first couple of turns of that game and whatnot. But again, just these things are going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, whatever it was, good job catching it quickly. As long as it doesn't take too long to get our final player here in this lobby, we'll hop straight back into it. Anything else that you saw yesterday in day one, Horse, that is worth mentioning to keep an eye out for today?
Well, I was looking at day one with a lot of the patch that came out week and a half, 2 weeks ago. The current patch, the most recent one that came out, and of course we talked about it a little bit. Definitely saw a lot of hand summons. Now we saw some hand summoning going on, but definitely not like a dedicated Captain Hook, Long John Silver hand summon board in that first lobby. I didn't see anything that looked exactly like that. The last couple of fights were that game looked like it went a little too quick to build a super cohesive board, despite Zilla Lag having an entire pile of cats. That did look like a convincing cat board, despite at the end playing more scam. It could have gone further into cat, all of that. But outside of the hand summons, outside of the pirate boards that I saw, I did see a variety of things. I saw Swift, who is in this tournament, who made day two, win a Midas game with a Fluffs board and never found a treasure, never needed to find a treasure, just managed to get there off the back of upgraded red Fluffs, building up Fluff stats, segueing that into playing a Blackbeard, and the Blackbeards closed out the game. I saw a handful of hunter boards. I saw one incredibly redundant dedicated scam board with Dr. Franks. I saw a mixture of things, definitely a lot of hand summons.
Yeah, it's always a fun meta when you see a variety of end-game boards and there's not just one thing you're specifically targeting is your end-game goal. We already saw that in game one. What was the comp we were playing even? I mean, it was Cat Queen, but it was a mixture of things. It was Harp, but it was also Cat Queen, but it was also Fire Mage. There were turns with Taylor. We even summoned Taylor. There was a lot going on there. So we then also saw Slay from our opponent. So it's nice to see that variety.
Yuck, I'm hearing that they fired. I think we may be getting a delay on the stream that we're watching because I'm not seeing an update on it now that I click off and click back. We might have to swap over and follow somebody else right here.
Okay, good call.
Yeah. We need to make a call.
All right, let's swap to Dr. Anansi, one of the players who qualified through asynchronous gameplay. How about that?
Okay, perfect. Absolutely. Oh yeah, we're already in a hero select.
Yeah. We have Phantom of the Opera, I'm seeing.
Oh yeah, we're past the hero select. Oh, we're getting a little bit of lag on the stream.
Oh yeah.
I end up swapping again, just full disclosure. But Phantom of the Opera is a fun one, man.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping to see this one. Okay, well, we don't necessarily want to hang on and have to watch this lag. So the other asynchronous player was Fausti. How about we try Fausti?
Let's do that.
All right. Apologies for all the bouncing around. We're trying to find the best player to spectate here. And Fausti picked amateur and has a hot potato, or I should say had a hot potato.
Let me see. I'm now taking a look. I don't see a hot potato.
No, had.
Man, it's the so flexibility. Hot. You blink and you miss it.
Yeah. I love the hot potato for sure.
It's such a good mechanic, and it's so good on level 2 if you can pick it up on 2.2, if you can pick it up on the third turn of the game, going right before level 3, because you get a lot of options, a lot of flexibility in trading that out and playing your level 3.0 shop quite a bit better than you may if you didn't have a hot potato on your board.
And apologies again for having to swap around multiple times. Hopefully we don't have that issue too many times. I don't even know exactly what happened, why we weren't seeing the lobby launched initially. But here we are going into combat against Skooky, who we tried to spectate originally, and they're playing Peter Pan.
Now, Peter Pan is one that really A lot of concern post patch about Peter Pan. A lot of concern about Peter Pan. Romeo and Juliet got changed in a massive way. It used to be Romeo and Juliet as the fight went on, and let's say you had multiple copies of each on your board, one would get knocked out, share all of its stats with the other one, then the other one would get knocked out, and they kind of, they go back and forth, but it would create this ball of stats that amplified every time it shared, right? It would grow and grow and grow. Well, Romeo and Juliet got locked into the only thing that they can stat share now is whatever they start with on the board at the start of combat. That is, doesn't matter if a Romeo buffs a Juliet and then that Juliet then buffs another Romeo. That Juliet will not be sharing all of the Romeo stats it just got with the second Romeo. It's only sharing, Juliet will only share the starting stats. So big hoopla about, okay, well, Peter Pan's in trouble because that was Peter Pan's main strategy. It was the way Peter Pan built stats to compete with late game boards. Saw some Peter Pan play yesterday. Good Lord, say that 5 times fast. And it's a different landscape now, and it's still really strong. It's still really good, but it plays a different strategy entirely now.
I always wanted Peter Pan to build a bunch of stats and then transform the characters and then kind of see what you get. That's always an interesting way to experience a game for me because there's the element of unknown and every lobby feels to play out a little bit differently, even if your game plan starts out the same. But it just hasn't felt effective anytime I've tried that with Peter Pan. So we'll see how that one develops. We're debating a puck here. There is also a freshen up in this shop. And I want to point out again, Horace, how much scouting we're doing already for all of the people in the lobby this early into the game.
And it is so early into the game, as you point that out, to be scouting this heavily. It feels like there's nothing that you can learn yet because nobody's had that many things to do. They don't have that many options. There's no actual comps. There are no synergies coming online. And meanwhile, it's still worthwhile to do it. It's still a good idea to be scouting this hard, this early. Keeping an eye on everybody is going to let you know your relative position. It's going to let you know if you're really good at reading these boards that you're seeing. It'll let you know if you're sneaking a little bit ahead, if you're falling a little bit behind, if you can play a little bit greedier right now, if you need to just put all the numbers on the board that you possibly can at this moment in time.
So it's hard to say where this particular game is going to go from here. Puck is a good tempo piece. We do have a couple owls though, and I'm looking at amateur, knowing that on level 4 we'll get a level 4 treasure, and there are a number of mage treasures on level 4. So I wonder if we're going to be able to angle towards mages here.
That does seem like a natural evolution of this board so far. Oh, we have just enough left on the board to not allow Papi Garagos to tie it up with the hero attack. That Elaine the Songstress worked overtime a fight prior. I saw it shoot at least 4 times in order to bring us to a draw, and here it is, the only thing remaining for us to win that last fight. Somehow this Elaine is our lucky unit on the board at the moment.
Something else I'm paying attention to is we played the fishing rod now on this freed prince. So there is always the possibility that we could slay something on our opponent's board and get a reduced price copy of it. I don't really see anything on this opponent's board that we would necessarily want to go jump through hoops to acquire. But that's always something that could benefit us if it happens to slay the right character at the right time. Also, we kind of wouldn't mind it just to slay because I don't know how long we're going to keep it on the board otherwise.
It looks like we're going to go ahead and cast a Blizzard because we get a little bit of free stat scaling on our owls. And there's an owl and there's a chameleon. There's a chameleon.
There is a chameleon. There's also an Elaine pair. There, couple of ways to spend your gold here. Unfortunately, you can't spend it on the owl because we don't have the mana. I have to assume that we will lock that for next turn. I'm not sure though. Fausty thinking about yeah, okay. Surely you have to lock that.
Yeah. Don't even mind the free, well, not free spell, but the health spell. There's a free spell cast and then it won't cost mana next turn. That's a big, terrifying looking parrot, but it hits probably the least important thing to hit. That's still overall looking. I thought Swift looked a little bit stronger than us, but we were able to draw that up no problem.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and that's happened to us a couple of times today. You just eyeball at the start of the fight. Looked like we were a little bit behind, but the puck kind of masks a little bit of your strength here because it doesn't have the big numbers,
Mm.
but it is gonna allow you to fire off some stars to help even things up. And with the right hits, you can take down an opponent that maybe is slightly bigger than you.
Well, we opted not to take the health, so didn't care about the little bit extra scaling on the Apprentice Owl. We did get the Matryoshka doll, which on Amateur, that's a sweet pickup. We'll be able to get the value from our hero power. We'll get our level 4 treasure next turn when we go to 4.0. And then a couple turns into level 4, we'll be able to swap. We could even just kind of do all the treasure heroes right down the line. We could go straight to Fisher King next and, grab that right before 5.0. That's a
Do you
really good
think
pickup.
we're considering the acolyte here or something else? Looks like maybe hovering a cat box doesn't seem like a perfect fit here, personally.
I thought we were considering the Acolyte. You can get the Acolyte, you can throw the Snow Queen Splinter, maybe even on the Acolyte, and you already have a bigger ranged attacker than you currently have. But looks like it's a variety of considerations. We saw the Cat Box getting touched. Now it looks like the Pirate Gunner is going to get the pickup, and a little
Okay.
awkward having the crew members summon out of hand before the Pirate Gunner buff gets to go off. So I think we're thinking about, no, I don't know. Definitely want to cast that spell, but looks like we
Yeah, we
ran out
didn't
of
get
time.
to it. I think we ran out of time. It is important to figure out your positioning, as you mentioned. There is some awkwardness with our current positioning, and wow, that's a smithy on the board of give free rollback, and well,
Well,
that's gonna unlock some
well, here you go,
strategies that I
Yuck.
know that they will be happy to try to play. All right, talked about maybe being able to find a mage treasure on amateur, and Odin's Ravens is a mage treasure.
Yeah, I don't really think the other two are much of a consideration in this spot. That Odin's Ravens is sweet. We love the extra mana. It works really well with our bird. Kind of wish we had that Acolyte from last turn. Not that I'm mad to have a Pirate Gunner, but it was a really nice pickup. Mage treasures typically live on level 4 and level 6. And so when you got a level 4 treasure coming and you got anything that likes to play with mage treasures, you're kind of thinking about that, I think.
Okay, well, we pick up a Captain Hook, which has the potential to buff the things in hand by 50%. And when you have something like an Owl that starts out with 14 stats, that's a meaningful amount of stat gain. Not to mention the Elaine, which has range. So any amount of stat gain could be relevant on the Elaine.
Yeah, we've seen that Elaine doing work for us all game long thus far. Should be able to do even a little bit more work now with the Captain Hook. A little bit awkward again. Unfortunately, we want everything. We want the Pirate Gunner to get the shot off before it goes down, but we do want it going down before the hand summons happen. We want the Captain Hook going down right away. We want the puck going down right away. We want everything on our board to attack first. And unfortunately, only one thing can.
Well, we want to be able to pick exactly how the fight goes, is what we really
Uh-huh.
want and what you often want with this strategy. You can't do that, though. You can try to control it by moving things around, and that's what Fausti's doing, looking for the positioning that Fausti thinks is the most likely to get a beneficial, um, order of operations, I'll say. And we'll see how that plays out right now as we go in against Max and Scheherazade.
Max is indeed on Scheherazade. Now had a few turns to get a little bit of value from the Scheherazade hero power. And it looks like that's doing Max pretty well. Will this end up in a draw after all? It will, but Max
Hey,
looking strong.
hey, horse.
Hmm.
We saw Max get a chameleon
Hmm.
slay right there. And that was while on 4.0. So they have access to an early level 5 character. I respect it.
Are you thinking that Max is second to the Smithy party that Zillalag is already in? It's possible, but
Yeah,
Zillalag with that Smithy a turn ago, 2 turns ago already? What was going on
yeah.
there? That was a chameleon and a kiss if I ever saw one.
It was on 3.2. So incredible. Yeah, that likely had a chameleon involved. However, it happened though. We'll definitely be concerned about that board going forward. What's happening here, horse?
I am not entirely sure. Are we? Oh, I think our stream just froze up. Looks like we checked the settings briefly, but I'm getting a little error on Discord. Looks like Discord's having a little bit of a struggle here with the current display. I wonder if we may
Okay.
need to swap again, potentially.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we will need to swap. Who are we swapping to, horse?
I kind of want to just go to Max because then we can see what that chameleon is right away.
Perfect.
All right, let's take a look at Max here.
Okay, it looks like that chameleon turned into a nocturne, is what I'm
Wow.
seeing here.
With 2 magical foxes, so and an agent of the moon. And now we're picking up a Captain Hook too, just to buff whatever we draw on the board from hand. Wow, this is cool. I'm liking this.
Yeah, again though, positioning and the order that you want things to happen, it's so tricky because you want the Captain Hook to be able to buff the summon from hand, but you want the summon from hand, in this case, the fairy, to be on board while you still have other things on board so it can share its stats. And let's see.
Wow. Imagine getting that fairy value so perfectly on the Nocturne. The
Yeah.
smithy was too big for the rest of our board to take it out, so it was there waiting for the fairy to catch it in its loving smithy arms.
And that opponent was Give Free Roll Back, who obviously is quite strong. So being able to win that fight is nice. Sitting at 16 health is not too worrisome. If you start taking a little bit of damage below 16, you have to start worrying about, the next fight and how strong is that opponent without having any breathing room. And here we go, a couple of level 4 pairs. I wonder if we have a way to get the other one this turn. I don't see a clean way to get to it.
No, I mean, you could talk me into ditching the pirate gunner, the 2 owls. Not really the duelist now that we've bought a pair of hooks. No, I think we're going to have to lock that up. I wonder if there's a world where we want to cast that spell, but only the pirate gunner looks like kind of a lost soul on this board at the moment to me.
Yeah, overall, this is looking pretty decent. No treasures, which is notable on turn 9. So that's not ideal, but you're on a hero that gives you a bit of tempo, Scheherazade, and you've been able to assemble a pretty strong board and now have some pairs. Not to mention, we do have an early Nocturne, thanks to that chameleon. Shout out to that chameleon, by the way. So I think we're doing okay for ourselves. This is the type of game that can go one way or another very quickly. So if we don't pick up a treasure soon, I think we can fall off very quickly, at least in comparison to our opponents. If we have a couple of treasures in a single turn, all of a sudden this starts to really take off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because you're looking at this board and I'm thinking hand summons, I'm thinking slay, but without a little bit of treasure support, neither one of them is really going to shine. So next turn is going to be really crucial. We go to 5 next turn, awkwardly needing to lock the Radiant Fairy on the go to 5 turn, but we do want that Radiant Fairy, especially with the extra Scheherazade buff at the start of next turn because we'll get a little more mana to start next turn too.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're going up against Swift playing Daedalus, who also has the Radiant Fairy, but that one is golden.
That's a big Radiant Fairy with a lot of young Yellowbark stats stacked up on it already. However, nothing ranged to share to, so we might be able to pull off the draw.
Yeah, this is one where we needed that fight RNG to work in our favor. The Radiant Fairy could have potentially been the last thing on our board, which I'm confident would have resulted in us losing that fight, but we got good enough fight RNG, and we'll take a tie. And because we didn't buy the Radiant Fairy last turn, we're able to get the maximum buff on it thanks to Scheherazade. So definitely not a character that we mind getting some extra stats on right out of the gate.
Oh, and here comes Kleck Norse. I was curious if we were going to take it. If you think that you may be playing a Slay strategy, Kleck Norse often fits in fairly well, but it may need a little bit of extra help here, too. 19 attack is not necessarily a world beater at this stage of the game, and it's possible that it might not be able to catch that Slay. If it can, it gets double value, though, because we got the Nocturne.
So there's a magical fox. Are we content to lock here? Possibly. If we want to lock, do we have, the 2 things we can sell to take the hot potato out of the shop potentially? Even if you can't get to that 3rd gold, maybe something to think about. Maybe you don't have 3 things you want to sell, but you can justify selling 2. Which I'm looking at an owl and a pirate gunner that aren't on our board. Maybe that could be an angle here.
I gotta imagine if you're in Max's position right now, you're also maybe thinking, that Magic Fox, if you got it right now, could be Slay Moon, which would allow your Kleck to complete the quest in one go, which would mean you might be looking at a Crescent Blade next turn. There are a lot of different considerations here. I'm wondering, it looks like we're going to get to it. What's getting sold? Is it It's our Agent
Okay.
of the Moon pair. All right. I wanted almost to get rid of the Duelist, but that's a hard sell.
Yeah, it's a little awkward there. As I mentioned, you had two things that didn't feel too bad to get rid of, but the third one was a little bit painful no matter which direction you went there. We don't get the treasure that you mentioned, but Simple Dagger, it's solid here. It helps the click to get a slay if your opponent has more stats on their front row. And as we go into this combat, I want to point out that we have lost one player. That's the Skooky playing Peter Pan. You talked about how different the gameplay was on Peter Pan. Skooky wasn't able to get things going in this one.
Oh, and our fireball breaks the shield, which, while maybe not the most important thing in the world, kind of cool that we cast a fireball and it hits the one spot that it actually does what we would love it to do. And that Magic Fox, despite Zekatron having decent attack for this stage of the game, too big.
Yeah, indeed. So, all right, we talked about getting treasures. So the Kleck is now one slay away from giving us a level 5 treasure. We still have a couple of pairs, even though we did have to sell one pair at the end of last turn to be able to get that Fox. All right, doing our due diligence and scouting here. No surprise to see give free roll back leaning into the smithies. And we are facing that ghost, the Peter Pan ghost that I just referenced.
Yep. So we're not anticipating that we should take a hit this combat. We really want to find the next couple of nice pieces. There's a Sea Witch, there's a Duelist. It's kind of split the two directions that we're already kind of naturally lined up for. Are we going to start to give up on the hand summons and play more into Slay? No, we're going to do both.
Yeah, this is interesting for sure because you have the hooks, so you really want to summon from hand. But yeah, positioning gets a little awkward. You want your ranged in the back row, and if your duelist is in the front row, maybe you don't get the full value from the hooks. Against the ghost, however, uh, we're probably not too concerned with how this fight RNG goes. We just want this collect to slay is the main thing. And any more slays we get in addition to that things are gaining stats thanks to the Nocturne. So I don't think we have to worry about losing without even seeing the board.
Yeah, I think what we're worried about though is the same thing you talked about a few turns ago is where will the treasures take it? Where does this game want to go? This board is not going to win this lobby.
Right.
A couple more things come together, we'll get some more information. You know, we could be in a good position to have a shot to win the lobby, but right now we're not quite there yet. And unfortunately, this is the point in Fairy Tale Fables where I start to itch a little bit because I realize that I need something right now. Like at this stage of the game, last game we were watching, Zillalag was already celestial harping everybody. Anybody and everybody. Zillalag was over there playing the harp, just harping away. And yeah, we need something. We need a power spike. It's time.
That's a great observation. I'm not entirely certain either. My first guess would be Slay, but I mean, it's not, really the ideal setup. Although, if we could pick up something like Crescent Blade from this Kleck, which did get a Slay, so we'll see a level 5 treasure here. That might help us find our direction. Because you're right, we need to figure that out, and we need to figure it out pretty quickly.
Elemental Swords, Poison Tree, Fate Scissors. You can get a few stats or you can go scammy. Where do you go?
Yeah, none of these are really directional, I would say. The extra stats, the scam, but none of them tell me specifically what our comp is going to be. We take Elemental Swords, which, is good. It gives us some extra stats. It works fairly well with the Nocturne. This still doesn't tell me exactly what the game plan is, though.
Yeah, that Kleck is looking quite nice, though, now that it's become upgraded, now that it finished its quest. Kleck does get to be quite a large individual unit on the board here for level 5, early level 6. It won't carry us forever, but should be able to fight pretty well and trade off in 2 or sometimes 3 for 1.
This is a tough one too, I think, Horse, because you want the Kleck in and you want it to slay. Well, maybe this shop helps us with this. I was going to say, do you ever want to take your biggest character, which is Kleck, and keep it in your hand to gain the most stats from the hooks? There's a lot to think about, but as we pick up a couple of triples here, and we're going to take Spyglass and then get one level 5 Divine Messenger.
Not helpful.
doesn't look like a Divine Messenger comp. I mean, Divine Messenger can be fantastic if you want to try to build into it, but I don't know that this is the spot for that.
The problem is Divine Messenger doesn't support anything that we've got going on already, and I
Right.
believe that second treasure was a skip. Yeah, like you're saying, Divine Messenger is incredibly powerful. If our speculation had been anything at all boost related, but Slay doesn't really care about boost at all. Hand summons, you're not going to throw a bunch of boost down. You're going to throw a bunch of summoners and a bunch of hooks, and wow, awkward.
Well,
Well,
I don't know. I was thinking Slay as well, and there was the 6 cost Slay item in that shop when we had exactly 6 gold left. I thought that may have been a consideration, but it looks like instead we go for the spell to give some extra stats. So maybe Max is not thinking Slay as much as we are right now.
I don't mind that really. If Max is, we're at the stage where if I wanted to play Slay, I wanted a Crescent Moon already. I wanted,
Yep.
I wanted a little bit more of a stack of Slay things going on. Maybe Max realizes, hey, that's not going to get off the ground now. We got to go a different angle.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna have to try to rely on some fight RNG when we're summoning these fairies from hand. We're summoning them most likely very late into this combat, but we still have lots of characters on board, so we're gonna get value out of both of those, and we're gonna win this one pretty easily. Dr. Anansi going out of the lobby with a map
Yep.
in their
Notice that
treasure.
map. You got to be
Yeah.
taking maps in this format. You got to be chasing that stuff. It won't always work out. And GG's to Dr. Anansi there out in fifth, it would appear. But you got to be chasing these map lines. You got to.
It's just tough. It's tough to see it. It's obviously tough to experience that. I'm sure we've all been there, but it's tough to even see somebody get knocked out with that map. Wasn't able to complete it, unfortunately. All right, we're again scouting and seeing what other players are up to. Do we ever play a new U on this collect?
I was looking at that myself. It's so hit or miss. It could turn into
No.
a multi, which does absolutely nothing for us and doesn't even get the extra stats on the sleigh like Kleck does. But there's some really good hits too.
We do need direction still, though. I have mixed feelings as well. I'm somewhat tempted though because the spot we're in, it doesn't tell me where we want to be going from here. And I do find that if you get to this stage of the game without direction, it can be difficult to choose that direction because
Yeah.
nothing seems perfect unless we get back into the sleigh angle. There's also a sleigh item in the shop. All right, we're going to take this one. All right, I think this was the most likely outcome, even going back a couple of turns, was to get into sleigh. I think Max was not wanting to commit too soon to it because sleigh it's very hit or miss, but getting a woman in the moon on 6.0 is in theory going to help us a lot.
One thing I keep noticing every time Max is taking a scout for our next opponent, that Hercules board, there was I think it was a 140-80 apprentice owl in the hand that's going to jump on the board at some point. And also there was a hand summon buffer on the front line. I think there was a hook. Multiple hooks on the front line. There's gonna be a big bird popping out at the end here. So we kind of needed to find this woman in the moon. I'm kind of in love with Max maybe waiting to find, just that woman in the moon, find something that says, okay, Slay's going to do a little bit better than what I've found so far, and then buying the Slay item. Because I'm with you, last turn, that 6 gold Slay item might have been a really great pickup. Now, in retrospect, definitely would have been with the woman in the moon. But at that moment in time, we didn't know really what was going on yet.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. And we do have this spyglass. If we could somehow get a couple more women in the moons, okay. If we can get a couple more level 6s to get a triple, then maybe we can get a level 7 treasure that can really send this comp into someplace that has a chance to compete. Because I think right now, without even seeing the other lobbies, or sorry, the other players in the lobby, it feels like we're probably behind just looking at this board by itself.
That Fausti Hercules board looks like it's going to be even spicier shortly. It's already got the Long John Silver hook with some big static characters that have been doubled up once, and it hasn't gotten low enough HP yet for the second double point. If anybody can beat Hercules, Hercules just comes back. If you can beat Hercules, but you cannot KO Hercules, Hercules is going to come back and make you answer for that.
Yeah. Also, we haven't mentioned yet that Give Free Roll back was playing Tinkerbell, has a a nice board going, but also has Aladdin as the second hero now. And Aladdin, when you can add that, swap into it, or add it as an additional hero, is massive.
Yeah, your capacity to do things with treasures to really boost your board in creative ways, especially if you're someone as creative as Zillalag. That Aladdin's going to be real strong, probably. Another Woman in the Moon, also an
Okay.
Ascendance in the shop. Do we have any eyeball for that?
I don't think so, because I think the way we get stronger is through uh, maybe tripling and getting another treasure. I'm not sold on the idea that playing Ascendance on one of these women is going to be enough.
Yeah, I'm taking
And
a look.
it takes most of your turn, right? Like it takes 12 gold next turn. We'll see though. I mean, it does make us quite a bit stronger. There's also the slay item in the shop, which is pretty spicy. I wouldn't mind getting
Honestly,
to both of those.
that might be the lock. The Ascendance might not be part of the
Could
game
be.
plan next turn. It could just be that Slay Moon. That Slay
Al-
Moon doing double Slay effects is going to be really strong here.
Although, if you can get to it gold wise, I don't know that we'll be able to. But if we get the item, then that makes me want the Ascendance even more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
So it gets a little complicated, I suppose. I don't think we'll be able to get both, at least not easily. We'll see how this one plays out. If we get the chance to see that next turn, we got to get through Swift first.
well, we have a big Merlin in the back row for Swift there. Silent Bell with a cat altar, and actually, for what looks like not much of a starting board to start the combat, the stats are kind of stacking up over time. Unfortunately, the Merlin cannot one-shot the Woman in the Moon here, so I think we'll eventually get over the top, but not enough to knock out Swifter.
No, not able to get a knockout. We still have all four of these players alive. This is not the board that we want to face, though. There are a lot of shields on that board. Shields don't allow us to easily get that first slay and then try to get the second one. That's going to be pretty tough. It honestly makes the item less appealing. And yeah, even though we locked, we're going to pass that shop. And I agree with this.
Yeah, this is a turn we really need a Blizzard. We really need a Genie Sandstorm. We really kind of need that Taylor that I'm seeing right there. And yeah,
Yep.
Max agrees.
I like it.
There was a 500, 500, nearly 600, 600 Smithy, and we know that Zillalag's been cooking those items all game. There's some big items on that Smithy. Gotta be.
We opted to skip the ferry, and I like the decision. We wouldn't mind tripling, seeing a treasure, but 4 gold is very valuable in this fight where we're just hoping to survive. And maybe saving
Cersei's
that
Cup.
gold. Yeah, saving that gold potentially allows us to play the Cersei's Cup. It looks like that's exactly what we're going to do here. No.
No, we're passing the cup. Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Can we?
Yeah,
Do
you
we
have
have
to get
to?
there. You have to.
But can we?
Well, I mean, can you not is the other part of that, right?
I mean,
So
I think it's time to stop. Is it time to stop doing hand buff? Oh my goodness. This is so awkward. Gold Mimic, Mage Gloves, Excalibur, Scabbard. Wow. Not the best treasures.
yeah, it was worth a shot. Yeah, Golden Mimic was not the 7 that you were hoping for here. We're not doing boost things, and well, let's just say if we take Scabbard, we may not be getting any value from it because it's delayed by a couple of turns. So we're actually not going to take any of those. Attacking first is nice. We still want a way to pop those shields on our opponent's board, and we don't have that.
I think Max has been incredibly diligent looking for a way to crack those shields. I feel like that's what the thrust of all those rerolls was all about, was just finding a way to crack those shields. Max
I think
knows.
you're right. Yep.
And let's take a look at Zillalag over here. Oh, there's a Frank's Monster Yuck.
Yep. This is a strategy that we didn't really go into detail about, but we've kind of referenced a couple of times. This is one that Give Free Roll Back really enjoys playing and plays it well. And when we saw that early Smithy, and I guess we'll hop over and spectate Zillalag.
Yeah.
When we saw that early Smithy, I just assumed this is where we were going to end up. And sure enough, here we are.
And GG, well played. Top 3 for Max there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big board.
and that means we did lose 2 players to make it into the top 2. So the goal here, for anybody that is somewhat unfamiliar, is you're turning your characters evil to give them the synergy with the Frankenstein's monster. And when you can get this number of stats on a smithy, potentially then share those stats with that Frankenstein monster. And the Frankenstein's monster has unyielding, and it's in the back row, somewhat protected. Um, that's hard to deal with.
Yeah, no Tempe involved in this setup at all. It's all the Smithy show. But when I guess when you get the early Smithy, you mentioned 3.2 was when we first saw that
Yeah.
Smithy.
Yep.
Those items, at least a couple of them, have been growing all the way since the start of level 4. And we got 6 items on the Smithy now. Zillalag is definitely gonna stack it up and throw pouches and overload the Smithy.
One of the nice things with a comp like this is you can also play these pieces like Celery Tea and Brave Little Tailor without it feeling like it's disrupting your own comp too much. There are some boards where you want everything on your board to be synergistic. This is the type of comp where, as long as you've got the key pieces, you have the flexibility to go along with that. And we also have Fate Scissors. I'm just now noticing that. So we have some scam. We have some stats.
That's an Aladdin slot, Fate Scissors.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're bringing it up and you're mentioning it, and this is really the strength of some of the best end game builds right now in Fairy Tale Fables is the capacity not just to put numbers on your board, but to add some aspect of scam in on top of it. And like you just said, we're seeing a Flying Celery Tea, we're seeing a Brave Little Tailor. The Frank's monsters both have unyielding, so they get a whole bunch of stats in their own right, grabbing the stats from the Smithy and the Multi when they finally go away in the front row. But this has so much flexibility, not only to fight you on the stats front, but to be able to take out stuff that might not have the stats to handle. We know this Hercules is going to have big stats. They doubled up again. I got a glimpse at what was in the hand. I didn't get to see how big it was, but it's going to pop out really big after that Long John Silver. Or is it?
Well,
Holy
the Tailor.
Brave Tailor.
Yeah, the Tailor doesn't care how big those stats are. Horse, you know what?
No shot, Yuck.
Give free roll back his live.
No shot, Yuck.
Oh, it's shot.
It got up to 19 points. There's only one way. There's only one way to be live after 2 games. Wow.
Yeah, unlikely. Give free roll back was the highest point score from day 1, even after dropping their phone and potentially ruining one of their games. Still, so watch out.
They say if you give a mouse a cookie, it's going to want some milk. But if you give free rollback a Smithy, we're going to be looking for a win. Let me tell you.
Yeah, without a doubt. Okay, well, if you can be the highest point score on day 1 and then win games 1 and 2, I certainly wouldn't count you out for going back to back to back and closing this one out in 3 games. Super unlikely from the start of it. Now it's seeming like, let's just say there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance, Yoke?
Yeah, you're saying there's a chance.
Well,
okay. Well, you ready to take a... Yeah, you go ahead. You beat me to it. We're on the same page here.
I think we'll give everybody a quick break, give our players a chance to go freshen up in between rounds. We're going to do one of those in between rounds every single time. So Yuck and I are going to say see you in just a moment, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for spending your time with us here today. If you're just tuning in, so far you've missed Give Free Roll Back Win a Game, and you've missed Give Free Roll Back Win another game, which means they're live. We have 19 points required to be live in this format, and so there's a chance that this could be the last game. This game number 3 coming up in day 2 of the tournament. Everybody else is going to try to play spoiler against Give Free Roll Back Horse. But before we get to that, we always got a couple of shout outs to give when we get the opportunity.
You know we do. And I want to shout out something that I have been looking forward to for a little bit. I got my chance to get involved a little bit early, and I got to say, Once Upon a Galaxy, big shout out to you, Yuck, of course, being on the team, but shout out to Million Dreams Games, the developers of Once Upon a Galaxy. We have been playing a lot of Galaxy over the last few months, and now that we're allowed to stream some Galaxy, we've been playing even a little bit more. So big ups to Galaxy. Wanted to say thanks to them. That game's been just absolutely digging it so far.
Yeah, thanks for that, Horse. Anybody that's unfamiliar, you can find more information on the website, www.galaxygame.gg, or you can keep an eye out for some streams of Once Upon a Galaxy, which now has a Twitch category, which is fun. And shout out to Lara for referring to Galaxy as friendly neighbors. I look at it the same way. And yeah, shout out to Lara and really everybody in the community of the auto battler genre. It's always been such a great community to be a part of.
And I know we don't want to necessarily take too much time getting into game 3 now. I don't think either of us expected, as you were touching on, that there was a chance that anyone would be live after 2. But of course, Zillalag went and proved us wrong. But once again, because we're going into the third game with a live player, meaning there's a chance this is the last one of the day, make sure you exclamation point crystals in chat if you have not yet done that, because there is a code for crystals that is only active during the broadcast. Now, we might have a 4th game, we might have a 5th game, we might, there's no guarantee that Zilla Lag wraps it up right here, but it could happen. So make sure you get your hands on those crystals before the show is over, because once the show is over, that code is no longer live.
And the other thing I want to shout out yet again is Turned Individual for sponsoring the tournament. Turned Individual has sponsored multiple months of tournaments, and we really appreciate that as a community. So thank you. And with that being said, do you have anything else, Horse?
Nah, I think maybe we ought to take a look at this third game, see if Zillalag can pull it off, or as you said, if someone can play spoiler and keep Zillalag from getting that first place finish, and thereby give themselves a chance to maybe take it instead.
Yeah, we've had the pleasure of spectating Give Free Roll Back a couple of times already. Not full games, the first full game, and then a little bit last game. But we're going to spectate Give Free Roll Back yet again, the only player that's live. So we'll get to see it from the first-hand perspective and see if any of these other players can prevent it from ending right here in game number 3. It all starts with hero select. Horse, maybe we can get one of those all or nothing heroes, because the reality for Give Free Roll Back is the only thing that matters is first place. Any other position is completely irrelevant.
Well, so the first game, Give Free Roll Back, we saw took a Fisher King. That second game, you noticed they were on Tinkerbell in the early game. This time we got Peter Pan, Dionysus, Trophy Hunter, King Midas. What do we like?
You mentioned how much different Peter, how often Give Free change. So I would say probably not Peter Pan. Dionysus, if you get lucky, can be great, but when you're trying to win a tournament, you don't want to rely too much on RNG. You want to have a little bit more control. Something like Trophy Hunter, who we saw Skooky get second place with in game number 1, gives you some options. Not what I would call a top tier hero, but serviceable.
I think it's got to be the Trophy Hunter for me here, too. You were talking about Dionysus, and I was making a face. I cannot imagine wanting to play in day 2 of a tournament final going for top 1 on Dionysus. It could happen, but the hit or miss nature of that. King Midas also could be a great pick. You could knock a lot of people, do a lot of damage early, get a lot of work done, but it feels like the one of those 4 that has the best chance to control its destiny in the late game, because Peter Pan doesn't have access to late game scam at all. You have to transform into the characters. You don't even get the spells. So yeah, trophy hunter it up, and let's do a turn 1 Smiling Sprout. We got the extra economy, so we take that with the short sword, the toothpick. This is a great start.
Yeah, I said it all starts with the hero select, and it certainly does. But right after that, turn one can be important. And what a great turn one! The economy from being able to pick up the short sword on turn one, regardless of the character you pick up, is already a strong play. And turn one Smiling Sprout, it's potentially going to be very good for us for a number of turns.
Speaking of economy, yuck, we got another
Crazy,
short sword on turn 2. Looks pretty good to
crazy.
me, and we're opting to take the dwarfy because we have so many items already. It's the strongest thing.
A lot of the time, you're going to have two characters with no items. Here in this spot, we have two characters with two items. So that's two extra gold. Not to mention the power it gives us right now. The extra attack on the Smiling Sprout can certainly matter, but the extra economy, um, give free roll back will find a way to use it effectively, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure too. I believe that was on the Sundiata that we just fought. I believe that was Skookie piloting the Sundiata. We saw Hot Potato. Did not see a lot of times you'll see a turn 1 upgraded Apprentice Owl. That's kind of the thing that you like to send that spell at the most because it does scale and it gets quite big over the course of the game. Usually saves you some life. I'm going to be curious to see Sundiata what we end up using that spell on when we end up using that spell. But it looks like we haven't found a target yet. And we got Fausty on the Leprechaun. That
Oh,
looks
okay.
convincing.
Yeah. Well, we had a pretty good start, but it's not a start that can compete with those numbers that we just saw. Good Leprechaun giving stats to good characters, and those were good characters in a couple of different ways. Good as in strong, not to mention good as in type. So, yeah, we're going to take a little bit of damage down to 24 health. Now we finally get a Slay character to where we can hopefully start taking advantage of our hero power here.
Yeah, now we run the risk of absorbing a little bit of damage with the small imp that kind of helps us maybe not take damage. You always feel a little funny on this turn of the game keeping something in hand because it does feel like you obviously you're not putting all your power in play if you're keeping something in hand and you don't have any way to get it onto the board. We'd love to get double value though from that Parrot Slay onto the Smiling Sprout, and then we'd be so much happier to play it the following turn. So a little bit of risk reward here already for give free rollback.
We're not going to get to it this turn, but is there a short sword in every shop for us here?
Strangely, we could sell the Sprout. No, obviously we're not going to,
No,
but the Dwarfy would get much stronger if we played that.
no. We're hoping to get this Parrot Slay, which is going to be doubled thanks to our hero power, and then turn this Sprout into a very formidable character, and that's exactly what happens.
Yep, and we don't even have to sacrifice any health in the process. That works great. We have a great Smiling Sprout for this turn of the game, and that's a quick young Fluff. I wonder what Give Free Roll Back does with this shop. Also, Consti Dagger. That's a pretty common thing to sometimes set up too.
Yeah, Get Free Rollback does really enjoy the daggers I've found, as we just saw last game with the Smithy and Frank's Monster gameplay. Looks like considering a couple of different options, going to go with the Fluff as well as the Songstress, which is going to be a range character that you can keep in hand to try to catch this young parrot buff, which allows you to play the Smiling Sprout to make sure you continue to play a strong board.
I wonder if we're locking for Consti Dagger next turn. Maybe it wasn't
Well,
so crucial to get the dagger scale in this turn, and it was much nicer to get some stats on a ranged.
I'm confident we're locking the dagger. I'm not certain that the Consti will be picked. It is a good combo. I also know through conversations with Give Free Rollback that they don't really prioritize the Consti and find that there are plenty of other characters that have stats that you can use the dagger and swap it from one to another as you continue to improve your board, that the Consti is not really needed. However, the way the gold works out might make it tempting. I think it could go either way. It would not shock me to see the dagger plus a 2 cost to be picked up.
And Skookie anticipating the parrot hit, putting a Cursed Rose in the back, just not able to get through the extra stats from the young parrot share on the Smiling Sprout last turn. Here comes that Vamp Dagger. It's going on the Fluff for now. And actually, touching the Mycroft, I think you might be right. I don't know that Give Free Roll Back is interested in that Consti at all. And I also tend to agree in that a lot of what you pick up on level 2, level 3, you don't end up keeping around on your board. Many of these things that we're buying at this stage of the game we're replacing anyway. So you put a dagger on a cat angel, you're already planning to sell that, right? So Consti just serving the purpose of I'm not going to cost you any stats on your vampire dagger. It might be 3 gold that you could just spend elsewhere, really.
Yeah, and this was the most gold efficient play to take the dagger into 2 cost, and we don't have to sell anything to be able to buy something that costs 3 here. And I like it a lot. Like you were saying, the cat angel, I'm sure doesn't stick around more than this one turn. So you use the dagger on it and then switch it to something else and then continue that cycle. And all of a sudden, you've got a bunch of stats on it and don't feel like you've really sacrificed anything for those stats.
I didn't see the Scheherazade board that we're coming up here against next, but noticing that gift reroll back, leaving nothing in hand, not going for the parrot buff this turn. So must have seen something on that board that said, I want to play full strength.
It could be full strength. It could be not confident that the parrot will be able to slay, so you might as well play full strength. It could be a couple different things. I didn't see it either. Scheherazade, is going to have some extra stats, although, well, the slay is pretty likely to happen, almost guaranteed there, in fact. But dealing damage, also very meaningful. So playing your strong board, never a bad thing.
That's what I was really wondering. Was that a play specifically to deal damage? Because Scheherazade is a hero that doesn't really start taking off on level 2. On level 3, starts to get some extra stats, starts to get a little bit of advantage from the hero power. And then by level 4, should actually be fairly strong in the lobby. So getting some early damage in on Scheherazade before Scheherazade has a chance to get strong has some value.
Do you see what I see?
I sure do. I sure do. Oh, it's going on the board this turn too. Okay.
Wait. You could lock the new you here and try to get the Chameleon Slay. I wouldn't necessarily do that.
Oh man,
I have done that type of play before, however.
Well, you could even sell off the 2 short swords and pull the sleeping cat out so that you have an extra empty board, or empty shop slots so that you don't feel like, I mean, you're still locking a bad shop for the, no. Okay. I think the Chameleon is just on the board this turn, but in that case, should it just be in the hand?
Yeah, I could see it either way. I think the game plan ultimately is going to be next turn, put the dagger on the Chameleon and get it to slay. Looks like Give Free Roll Back is debating whether or not they want to try to get the Chameleon slay or how to position here. So some things to think about. We still got 14 seconds left to figure out exactly what we want. Regardless of what we're doing with this Chameleon, I'm just personally happy to have it.
Yes. Totally agree. We both want to see this Chameleon turn into something really cool. It'd be really funny if it manages to slay this turn from position 7 when it's set up clearly by the positioning. Zillilag is not looking to get it to slay this fight.
Unlikely, but
Oh,
well, I mean, sometimes I mean, this is you. You spoke that into existence.
That's me. Well, tomorrow's trader with a dagger. This is what everybody wanted. This is pretty normal. That's the high roll, the 3.2 Chameleon into tomorrow's trader.
That's the whole reason of taking the Chameleon was to get a tomorrow's trader. I'm pretty sure, right?
All right. Well, what about Alpha Tanuki and a Muddy Ocean Crab? Okay.
All right. Well, Muddy Ocean Crab is a monster. Alpha Tanuki with a slay item. We got a lot of slay things going on here on Trophy Hunter, no less. I mean, really, tomorrow's trader, if it was gonna slay last turn, the Chameleon, and turn into a 4-drop, tomorrow's trader, not bad. Maybe one of the better options, really, when you're playing Trophy Hunter.
You know the little known fact about tomorrow's trader, Yuck? The one thing that a lot of people will tend to forget, it's a mage unit. All we need to do is get one more Chameleon, find ourselves a Crystal Sage. That thing could have 1,000 attack.
All right, sign me up. All right, for now, we are gonna lead with the trader. The crab is a nice pickup just on its own. Even better if we can get some synergy going with this Alpha Tanuki. I'd say we're relatively happy with our board. I'm not exactly sure how this shapes up over a number of turns, but for this turn, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm not this is passing my eye test. Of course, I do want to start to make a treasure. I'd like to pair something useful here shortly, but I'm not sweating it at the moment. This looks fine.
I'm gonna say again how much economy we have. We still have these
Mm.
short swords. We're hanging on to them, and the longer you can hang on to those, potentially the more value you can get out of them, and trading that out for higher cost characters or items or spells, whatever the case may be. And it's a close one. We manage a tie here. Um, we did get the tomorrow's trader sleigh.
We did.
We also got the Tanuki sleigh, I suppose.
Yeah. No, we got all the hits we wanted to get. Dr. Anansi's Acolyte looked like it was going to be problematic paired with that Impatient Farmer at first glance, but like you had mentioned right at the end of last turn, this board is fine for this stage of the game. So, despite some power on the Fisher King board, which no hero power yet for Fisher King, so good health over there, probably feeling all right about the start of that game. We're just here cruising into ties at the moment. We're looking for something to get ahead. Muddy Ocean Crab pair looks pretty nice.
Yeah,
Tomorrow's Trader does get paired.
yeah. Interesting. I mean, you said we would like some treasures, and then okay, maybe a golden tomorrow's trader can play for a handful of more turns as well. Wouldn't hate that. We also have been seeing get free roll back. Continue to scout players in the lobby and just over and over staying one step ahead, or at least trying to stay one step ahead of everybody else.
Yep. I really am digging this Alpha Tanuki Muddy Ocean Crab combo.
Yeah,
It's easy to forget that and honestly, I'll admit it. I forgot the Muddy Ocean Crab's a monster too. So this is
yep.
looking pretty great. The other cool thing, I didn't see a single stealth game in my day one spectating yesterday.
Yeah.
Nobody. The thing to get into stealth though, it feels to me these days lately is that you kind of have to have been doing Muddy Ocean Crab on level 4, and then also probably grab a mat early-ish on level 5 to feel like you have enough stealth triggers stacked up to want to go there. I'm not even convinced Zillilag's gonna go there, but there might be an option. That'd be kind of cool
Yeah.
to see.
I think the option is definitely there. Even if we don't find a mat early, I think because we have one Muddy Ocean Crab on 4.0 and the second one on 4.1, and we don't mind playing them over several turns because of the extra attack that they've gotten from the Tanuki. Unfortunately, we do lose the Tanuki to the Lightning Strike at the start of this fight, so we're not getting that Slay proc. But still, you're happy to continue to play these crabs. Again, you mentioned you didn't see stealth. I don't think it's necessarily the strongest comp, but it is absolutely an option here from this spot.
Well, and with the Trophy Hunter hero power too, the other thing to I guess think about is, let's say we do end up with a Mad Oblivion Seeker. Shadow Lord is really nice just to add extra attack to the thing in slot 1 that you want to slay. So you might not even care. Like Zillilag might not even be thinking Twig later. Even a Shadow Lord alone might be the right kind of tech piece to pop in to make the board just way better. And here's our first treasure, Weird Compass Pirate Map, Witch Hunter's Talisman.
Yeah, with no other treasures, Pirate Map not the strongest consideration. Weird Compass, super, super strong. Feels like so consistent as well. And when you're at 24 health and don't feel like you're desperate to get a tempo treasure, Weird Compass is one of the treasures I think you would want to have the most.
Did Fausti Future Vision? That good Leprechaun's level 5 with a Tempe on that board last turn.
Yeah, possibly.
Huh. Also, I think we got both Tomorrow's Trader slays last fight as well. This Tomorrow's Trader somehow keeps slaying.
Yeah. Well, look at the size of the Radiant Fairy straight out of the shop. I mean,
Yeah.
even just look at the shop when we're not busy scouting. Noticeable amount of stat gain to those characters, which in the very, very late game, those extra stats may not be relevant for this stage of the game. Buying things out of the shop with the additional stats is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, sign me up right now. Absolutely. I'll take another Radiant Fairy if the shop wants to sell me one. A 1411 Radiant Fairy on level 4. Looks great. And
I was just going to say a lot of things we can start looking for next turn. You already mentioned the mat.
We're thinking the same thing, Yuck.
We'd be happy to get a mat, but also now a Sea Witch is massive as well.
Nocturne with a few extra stats doesn't hurt my feelings.
Several things that we'll be looking for starting next turn. For now, though, we are going to face Fausti, who is at 15 points. right here for day 2. So the second most points behind Gift Free Rollback. Fausti definitely trying to set themselves up to become live and,
Wow.
well, dealing damage to us, put us down to 17.
You get yourself a few free Kid the Resolute shots before level 6, and there aren't too many boards that are going to stand up to just extra free range shots throughout the course of the combat. So I think there was a future vision. I think there was an early go to 5, and I think that's paid off at least in these mid game combats for Fausti. Definitely beating a strong looking board here for Give Free Rollback and beating it convincingly enough.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned a couple things we might be looking for on level 5. We did say there were multiple things. Kleck was one of those things. We're pretty happy to pick it up along with the Sea Witch. Um, there is a shielded character on our opponent's board. There's also one character on that board that's big enough that the Kleck would not be able to slay. So it's far from a guarantee, but if we are able to slay with Kleck, it'll be a level 5 treasure just kind of just straight out of nowhere.
I'm noticing that Hercules on 19 HP, one less than the threshold needed for that first double up. And it always
Mhm.
makes me wonder, did that happen the turn before this fight? Nothing feels funnier than knowing that the Hercules got doubled up right before they came to say hello to you. And I don't know that that's the case here, but Giffrey Rollback's going to have to deal with a doubled up Herc.
Yeah, look at the size of the Sea Witch too. Something you typically buy out of the shop,
Mm.
and you buy it for the effect a lot of the time, more so than for the stats and the fact that it's ranged. But when you can get it up to 24 attack the way it is right now, it does not feel like a liability. In fact, it feels like a strong pickup in addition to the text and the ability that it provides. So we've been setting this up over the course of a couple of turns with the Tomorrow's Trader and the Tanuki, and we're hoping to really reap the rewards from that setup.
That's a super solid point that Sea Witch normally is a 6/6, and now it's the strongest thing on our board, arguably. Now, granted, the Kleck and the Tomorrow's Trader are bigger, but it's the biggest range character we have. It's great. Yeah, we're totally stoked about that.
Yeah.
Oh, Squeaky
Also
with a
worth
friend's monster. Sorry.
Oh, nice. Also worth noting that this Radiant Fairy has 3 really good targets to share
Yeah.
stats with in the back row, the Sea Witch or the Crabs, which will have their first attack be a ranged attack. All of those will be good. So let's see. We want to start with the Collect Slay. Unfortunately, there was a third shielded unit. That's what we attacked into. So no treasure coming for us at the start of this turn, but not taking damage. I'd say we can accept that.
Yeah, plenty strong enough to pull the draw. I think we actually did get another Tomorrow's Trader slay. The shop stats, I have not been a Tomorrow's Trader believer at all in the slightest. I ignore it. I don't know that this will change my mind necessarily, but seeing how it's curving out on Trophy Hunter specifically, it's been convincing here for Give Free Rollback.
Yeah, it obviously makes a difference here that Trophy Hunter is part of the equation. And there's a mat. Okay. So,
Yes, I saw that. I wanted that.
yeah. So, I mean, that Radiant Fairy at 28-21 out of the shop, yeah.
I want that
It,
too. I'm not gonna lie.
but yeah, going back to the mat, it's a monster. So it's also, gaining from the previous Tanuki Slay. Although we haven't gotten very many Tanuki Slays. So it could
No,
be even more. But between the Tomorrow's Trader and the Tanuki, the mat is a formidable unit straight out of the shop, more so than it normally would be. And those potentially still continue to set us up for a stealth build in the late game.
looks like we're debating if we can win this fight and get the XP and keep it, because that would set us up to start next turn on level 6. And the math has been made and the decision has been made that maybe there's a chance. So let's see if we can get some XP on top of it.
You know,
Ideally, Kleck gets that first hit and then we go to the moon.
yeah, sorry to cut you off there, but I got excited because I was going to say, even if we don't win the fight, we will get an initial shop of level 6 characters, and there are a couple of them that we would love to see. And so even if we just get that initial shop, I'm not going to say it's worth the full 3 gold, but it's a nice consolation prize.
Also, I gotta admit, I didn't really notice the Narcissus pickup at this stage, but I absolutely love it. And I feel like that was one thing that yesterday, as I was spectating, not saying that I know better or anything like that, there were a lot of Narcissuses, though, that I saw get rolled by in spots where I would have been tempted. And some of them I would have definitely bought. And the person piloting the game chose not to. if there's any world where we want to get into Slay, the treasures we really love are on level 5. I like getting these narcs and letting them kind of give me an option here and there. It can be really handy to only spend 10 gold on a very useful treasure at times. Anyways, Cookie's already got a quest complete collect, and we don't get to collect.
Yeah, your opponent first attack straight into your collect. That's not ideal. It feels bad. We are able to tie the fight though, so we're probably pretty happy with that. So here's the opening shop on level 6. Not the things I was thinking we wanted. Some strong
Hey,
things
yuck.
for sure,
Hey,
but
yuck,
I
I
don't
double
know.
dog dare you. I double dog dare you. Come on. There's a good
Well,
boy, there's a hurting dog. I don't know if we
yeah,
should
but
take those though.
we don't have a haymaker yet. It doesn't feel like that's what we're doing. Although I do want
Okay.
to go back to something you referenced, talking about getting a treasure and how level 5 treasures can be good for slay. I don't think we're locked into stealth. We've been talking a lot about stealth. It is an option. I don't think it's necessarily the total game plan here. I think we want to, use that as one of the plans, and then see if we can find something that we like better along the way. Although when we pick up this Phoenix, it does fit into a stealth board. Then we pick up the Hermes, which fits into a slay board. I don't know what we're doing, Horse.
I think there's just a really natural there. Overall, the one thing you can say about gift reroll back's board right now is that it is strong. There's a good just power level of using whatever had happened earlier in the game, all the Tomorrow Trader slays, whatever Alpha Tanuki slays, not that we got that many, but everything is all just kind of mixing together to make just a good board for this game. And we do have options. We could still be stealth, we could still be more slay, although I think our slay window is closing a little bit because we noticed that we witnessed that last game. Slay gets tricky if you get later into the late game, and then all of a sudden you're having a much harder time slaying. And we bumped into that situation the last game that we watched. If we have more of these hand summon situations, though, it should be fairly easy to keep slaying for now.
Yeah, you talk about how we have a strong board. A lot of that does have to do with this Tomorrow's Trader, which, it was a
I talk
spot where,
trash.
yeah, I mean, do we want this Chameleon to slay? Should we keep it in the hand? It turns into Tomorrow's Trader. It's in hindsight been quite strong for us, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, still fighting to get this collect slay and this collect treasure. The longer it takes, the more painful it is because now you feel like you have to continue playing it, and it feels less likely to happen just because it didn't happen the last 2 turns. But maybe this is the one.
Well, Zacatron's got a large smithy over there with the shield. We've got a little bit of attack built up, a little bit of a stack. Collects down to needing one more slay, unfortunately. Yeah, smithy
Well,
stats are going to take the day here.
close one, really close one. Worth noting there, the Hermes took both Trophy Hunter slay doubles, so it didn't leave one for the collect. So the collect does not complete off of that one slay. A little bit awkward. We do get the triple. We pick up Crescent Blade. So, okay, there's a Shadow Lord and another Hermes.
Ooh. And Give Free Roll Back was thinking about this the whole time. We talked about it earlier that one Shadow Lord might allow you to just continue slaying even if your slay isn't really looking as convincing as it once was, and pick that up instantly. There wasn't a moment of deliberation there. Saw it, immediately moved the mouse toward it. Was thinking about Shadow Lord, wanted it, and here it is.
I didn't notice what board we just scouted. Somebody had a Dark Twig on board as their only stealth character, so probably a new you or something. Oh, there it is. It's the player that got eliminated in 8th place, and they've actually been knocked out for a couple of turns now. So it looks like they went for a big new you and hit a twig, which is not what they wanted, but looks like something that we would like to have.
We do want a twig. Yuck. No, we definitely want a sea witch, not a twig. Wait, no, but I'm pretty sure it's a twig. Maybe it's not actually another sea witch, or is it can we just get a twig that doubles your slay abilities? Can we get one of those? If we could just get a combo package, I think that would be perfect for this board.
Well, listen, if there was a way, Gift Free Roll Back would have it figured out. That much I'm sure of. I don't know of a way. I don't think you can use Furnace to transfer the ability over. So I don't think that's going to happen, but we do still have some options. Like, for instance, if we see a woman in the moon, do we? I don't know. It's hard to say. Although, regardless of what we do, we still continue to have a strong board. We're building up a stealth counter if we care about the twig. And you referenced this quite a bit earlier, Horse, but just picking up the Shadow Lord to give this Kleck extra attack when it gets to attack is going to help it slay.
Yeah, I mean, especially now sharing some stealth procs across the board too. The Sea Witch probably will attack from stealth. Everything, the whole board just gets better for dropping one thing on it. It's kind of great. Well, we don't expect to have any trouble here against the ghost fight. GG's to Max, of course. Hermes once again taking all of the trophy hunter triggers, like you pointed out last combat, but this time not a problem for a Kleck. Philosopher's Stone, Holly's Gold, Shooting Star.
There's a twig in the shop, by the way. So
it's a pretty quick pick. Now there's an Ascendance to go along with it.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem necessary with Philosopher's Stone, but it's good.
Well, it's still pretty good. You can use it. Shadow Lord and Twig would both like to be golden, so you could use it on one and leave the other one in the Philosopher's Stone slot. Give Free Rollback going to choose not to do that here, but I do think it was reasonable to consider that. So we're doing our scouting. We are going up against the first place board, and that's a lot of stuff in hand that's going to be summoned. A full hand, in fact, that is going to find its way on board if we don't find a way to prevent that.
Yeah, and I'm also noticing the Sea Witch went to the bench, almost to me indicating that we're more stealth than slay, despite the fact that we got that Crescent Blade.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case. We are going to pick up a Tailor, which can fit in a lot of situations. I don't know if we're going to prioritize it this turn or we're just buying it so we have it when we need it later. We are going to pick up a Mat, however, which is an upgrade over the Crab that was on our board.
Now, we could stealth both the Royal Phoenix and the Hermes if we wanted to. Of course, we're getting the Mat value. In case you didn't know, and I know you know, Yuck, but for those of you out there, if you don't know, Mat Oblivion Seeker can stealth something that is already stealthed itself. So Mat stealthing Mat still counts as giving you one extra stealth stack for your Dark Twig value.
I do think I prefer this positioning, however, that we currently have. But yeah, we weren't really losing anything per se, aside from we wouldn't have stealthed the Hermes, so we would have lost some stats, of course. Mm-hmm. That the Twig wouldn't have then been sharing to the Hermes. But now everything on our board is going to be stealth. Looks like we're preferring scaling over stats for this fight, which is especially interesting only because we're going up against first place. So a lot of times you would think you're against first place. That's when you want to play your strongest board. But Give Free Rollback has scouted, has decided that the scaling of using the Shadow Lord to become golden in the Philosopher's Stone slot is going to be more value than the extra immediate stats from the Twig.
That's a really interesting determination, but it looks like a good one, and I don't know that I would have made the same determination myself. I probably would have put the Twig in that last slot. And Dr. Anansi has an upgraded Twig over there, a couple of Celery Teas, some really decent scam setup to go along with a decent starting stealth board, but definitely behind in the stealth battle, and that's an awkward place to be. You don't want to be the one with a Dark Twig board going up against a Dark Twig board that has more stealth procs than you already. That does not feel good.
They did have Celery Tea on their board. They also have Garlic Cabinet, which allowed them to clean up a little bit of the damage, so we didn't deal as much as it initially looked like we might. But you're right. You don't want to be the second place stealth board because it feels like you just don't have a lot of options to catch up at that point. Okay, so it looked like it was a good decision to play the Shadow Lord in that Philosopher's Stone slot. We got some extra scaling thanks to that. And yet again, we're starting our turn with scouting. We still have 7 players alive on turn 15, Horse.
That is absolutely wild, yeah. But I mean, these are the kinds of lobbies. These folks know. Everybody understands the score here. You cannot let Give Free Rollback win. You can't. You just can't. You can't allow this to happen. Now, you might not be able to stop it, but you cannot allow it to happen. You can't sit by idly and do nothing and allow this game to be over. But wow, these shops and this board. The awkward thing about that last fight, Celery Tea is so good at shutting down aura characters. It does nothing to entrance comps, so it's not even a great counter to a stealth board. Oh my goodness, more value.
Yeah.
Sinbad Savitri? I mean,
I don't dislike the Savitri really.
double Philosopher's Stone, though, looks pretty spicy, too. But we have an upgrade spell on top of it. The rich are getting richer here.
I think Savitri here because you're at 11 health, so you're not completely foolproof. And the longer you extend this, the more stats you're going to gain through your stealth comp. In addition, you only care about first place. So, yeah, I like this personally. Also, worth mentioning that now if you swap out of this pair of heroes, you still get to keep that Savitri Revive and that Sundiata Ascendance, assuming we don't just go ahead and play it, which I'm thinking we will. But that's a nice combo to have when you can freely swap out of them without feeling like you're losing anything.
Yeah, we're definitely going to let that Ascendance fly this turn. And I do prefer this. I really wanted that Sinbad, though. There was some spicy stuff to do with Sinbad, but I think this had to be the play. You're right. Your stealth board continues to grow. You have one bad combat where the fight RNG doesn't go your way. You don't suddenly just perish unexpectedly. I want to be curious how many stats Swift is building on the hand. It's looking pretty big. They're fighting back quite well against give free roll back here. Oh, it's the Portal Wardrobe Yuck, your favorite.
Yeah, that's an interesting comp. You look at it at the start of the fight, and it looks like they've been AFK for 5 turns. But that's just the new patch and part of the new meta. You summon a lot of things from hand, and Celery Tea, we have it in our back row. Celery Tea can help prevent some of those things from happening. But in that particular fight, we saw those things from hand get really big and then summoned to board, and we're not able to deal with all of them.
I love it. We're gonna keep talking about it all day. We've been talking about it all day. I love the scouting ahead. That Celery Tea that you're pointing out right here, that was picked up due to a scout. While I might have been surprised by how many stats came out of that hand, like I obviously knew the capacity. I knew that there could be that many stats, but I just really didn't know. Pretty confident that Zillalag did the math. Zillalag did the scout, knew roughly what it was, probably knew roughly what could have been found, and probably knew that there was going to be like a 500 to 700 popping out there, and picked up the Celery Tea in advance.
I respect this play a lot, Horace. Give Free Roll Back knows the treasures pretty well, without a doubt. But in a moment where you're in a day 2 of a tournament and you're trying to make a decision, is there a treasure I want bad enough to take that triple in the shop? Just, you have the time. Just open up the menu, look through how many treasures would I be happy with? Is it worth the gold? And deciding no, ultimately. And I think that was a really smart play. We do have the second Ascendance from Sundiata now that we've dropped to 4 health. We don't really have anything on this board, I think, that we want to use it on, but it's nice to have, especially when we have that Savitri Revive, so we don't have to worry about, losing the game while still having that Ascendance.
Yeah, sometimes you think about popping that Ascendance onto the Fire Mage because it takes it from half damage backline to full damage backline, but you look at the board that we're up against next, and it doesn't really look like our Fire Mage damage is going to be much of a world beater here. It gets a little bit extra from the Shadow Lord, and that's going to be handy, but those dwarves are looking pretty big.
All right, well, we still have 6 players alive on turn 16. That's kind of a lot of players for turn 16. And just as a recap, the player we're spectating, Give Free Roll Back, is the only player that's alive. If Give Free Roll Back wins this lobby, the tournament is over and they are the winner. So everybody else trying to play spoiler, it's 5 other players that are still in this against 1 currently. And that dwarf board, it's a lot of stats, and it's too many stats. There goes our Savitri Revive.
Oh, but here comes another twig. Yeah, we're on our only life now. Technically, there's a chance to get one more, but
hero swap,
but also another Phoenix, and also Dr. Anansi. I'd looked at that board earlier and thought that looks like it was set up to be potentially a lot of good scam. But here we go.
Wait, Phantom and Mimic. I feel
notably, we're seeing one of the bigger changes from last patch kick in here. You don't get any extra health. You used to get extra health when you would trade heroes. You're not healing from doing this anymore. But wow.
Yeah, not really the options you were looking for. I was going to say, I think Mimic and Phantom, there should be some type of achievement for winning the game with that type of combo. But All right. Well, it was worth a shot. We have good Leprechaun, and Artemis is fine here.
Yeah.
Um, to give range to our slot one character, we're not unhappy with that in particular. So we do get a lot stronger now that we have the second golden twig. Is it going to be enough though? There's some scam on that board, but
These two boards as is, I think we're ahead. I think what I'm
yeah.
worried about is, does Dr. Anansi find Dr. Frank to add in the... I think Dr. Anansi needs a little bit more depth here to fight up against what I'm seeing on Give Free Rollbacks board.
Yeah, with the Golden Archdemon, a Dr. Frank on that board would automatically be summoning a lot of things, unless this Fire Mage can deal with that Dr. Frank. It's hard to face a board with the Fire Mage and trying to figure out where you want to place it. Looks like Giffrey Rollback considering cutting the Fire Mage for the Hermes, which could have the chance to take out some of the scam units in the front row before they get to attack. However, as we're talking about, if Anansi picks up Dr. Frank, then the Hermes is less good. But also, Hermes is very good with Artemis because you're going to get an extra attack potentially. So, yeah, some things to think about.
I think if you're looking at that and you're thinking Dr. Frank might be the most terrifying thing possible, you do what Give Free Rollbacks doing here. You play the Fire Mage, not the Hermes has a ton of upside though. You're right. You're right. There are too many good options here. Too many good options.
I just like that there are things to think about. A lot of players, possibly myself, would overlook that there's a consideration to be had. You wouldn't mind getting rid of that scam on your opponent's front row. Hermes can potentially help you do that. But yeah, the Fire Mage is a little too tempting for me as well. And that is what we go with here.
Well, both the Succubus and the Tailor get to hit, the Tailor being the most effective scam piece against what Zillalag's doing here. Now, the Celery Tea is great. It's taken off like 30% of the stats, but really that's not very effective against a stealth board because you Celery Tea a Gretel that's 1,000, and it turns into a 5/5. It takes the aura stats away entirely. Celery Tea absolutely preys on Gretels and Hansels. But on an entrance character like a Blackbeard or a Mirror in the Wall or a big twig-powered stealth board, unfortunately, it's just not as good a scam piece as that Tailor. That Tailor was the better of the two, and the Succubus was the best. And the Succubus did as much work as it possibly could, and it wasn't even close.
Okay, so we're going to pick up another twig. We also take a monkey, so we're on the lookout for a stealth item. If we can find that stealth item, we have the Philosopher's Stone already. We throw that stealth item on the monkey, put it in slot 7, and our numbers get much, much bigger than they already are. And they're already pretty big numbers, I would say. So a handful of things we're still looking for. This is all we're going to be able to do for this turn. I could see, I was getting ready to say exactly this, looking at a spell shop and seeing if there's anything we want to lock for. We'd love to play the Dramatic Reveal. Are we willing to sell for it or lock for it, though? I don't know.
Well, also, will the Celery Team make its way back in this fight? I'm pretty confident I saw two. Oh, no, I only saw one good boy. If the Celery Tea could ever get that good boy, that could be incredible value. Also, I was wondering, is there a world where we sell for a -100 spell if it could snipe Kiv or the Fisherman Flounder before the good boy goes?
Yeah, you talk about Celery Tea. Brave Little Tailor is very good against the board like that as well, and giving some consideration to playing the Brave Little Tailor here.
The one thing I think we can both agree on, Yuck, it feels good that Royal Phoenix is flying. Something about that. It just feels natural to me.
Yeah. So this is Fausti that we're going up against, by the way. So Fausti came into this one at 15 points. So Fausti will be live if this one goes another round. The only person that can prevent that is Give Free Rollback. So Fausti's definitely got some extra skin in the game on this one. Winning this fight guarantees another round and the opportunity to be live into the next one. So this is a big fight.
Really big fight. Let's see what the Fire Mage gets done. Let's see. Got to lead with a Nero for Fausti this turn. You'd rather lead with the good boy if you could. The Fire Mage couldn't quite get the Corgi down, so it got all the stats, but we just have too many stats.
We do. I do see a pirate safe on. Oh my, that's 2 more Dark Twigs. All right. Well, let's talk about that instead, I suppose. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's normal. That's natural. That's what we expected. This is what should have happened.
The reality is that's not even the best thing you could find here. The stealth item would be better most of the time than
Yeah.
picking up those two dark twigs, but we'll take that, especially in a shop where we had locked all the spells to then find two characters in that same shop. That's we're just going to call that a win.
That is absolutely bonkers. Now I'm looking at these treasures, and it looks like get free roll back here, going for the skip. None of those were an obvious upgrade to the board. Maybe you go for the orchestra because it was a few procs, but it really pales by comparison to what the twigs are already doing. So I think I'm happier to have the money too. Oh, and here comes a flying celery tea. I love it. Top three, yuck.
Yeah, I did see the Freya was showing a Chrono Crystal, the player that we're facing here. But we're just continuing to upgrade everything on our board. I mean, that it's not unlikely to happen when you make it all the way to turn 19. You have more chances to find the things you're looking for. You have more triples, more goldens, more treasures. But we are finding pieces to upgrade our board turn after turn after turn.
And here comes that orchestra, finally taking it, deciding it is a slight upgrade, might as well. That Phoenix upgrade, that is a big upgrade. That doubles the stat gain on the second half of the Phoenix. That Phoenix is going to be quite large when it comes back the second time.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this celery tea, and while it does work very well against this comp, they have enough redundancy in their summons that
Mm.
it doesn't really do a good job of shutting down their summons. You could possibly hit the hook, um, which would help, but you can't really interact with the Long John Silver that's in hand. And it looks like Give Free Roll Back is, factoring these things in while trying to figure out what to play. Ultimately, is going to choose to play the Celery Tea. There are some good hits, but none of these hits completely shut down our opponent's comp.
We're down to our last life, but pretty much everybody in the lobby effectively is really got to make this work if you're give free roll back and you want this whole thing to be over right now. Now we lost the Shadow Lord. That's not so devastating. Took out one back row character there. How big do they get in hand? Pretty big. Not big enough.
No, not big enough. Chrono Crystal though, so Swift is not out, still in it. We do go to the top three. We get the Ghost fight, so one of those two players that are still remaining likely going to get knocked out this round, and we just won against the Freya, and without really doing much different, I think we have a pretty decent chance
I'm
against the two
shocked.
remaining players.
I'm shocked we didn't buy that Shadow Lord and then immediately roll up the triple Shadow Lord this time. Oh, well, I guess we're not going to need the Shadow Lord
No,
anymore.
we want the stealth item. I think we want the stealth item far
Oh,
more than
true.
anything else right
Yeah.
now. Also, then we have to decide how important are stats, or would it be more important to play a second celery tea, for instance? Um,
I think
so
that is the best point at this point in the game is just piling on more stats might not provide any benefit whatsoever. We already have a big pile of stats. A couple of boards do, big deal. We might have more stats than the others, but it's really about what you can do with them, right? It's more
yeah.
important how you can make those stats work for you than just getting them for the sake of getting them.
Yeah, I mean, bigger numbers are more fun. I can fall into that trap as well. Let me just add things that make my numbers bigger. But the best players, and we've seen time and time again, Give Free Roll Back is one of the best players, will recognize when the stats are important and when they're less important, and sometimes when they're not important at all. And when you need to play these tech pieces. We do pick up a second Celery Tea. We don't need it for this ghost fight, and it looks like we're not going to play it, but it gives us options.
Well, I think that was Fausti on the Savitri, but I noticed the last time we scouted Savitri, still showing 2 HP and 1 revive. So it's
Okay.
possible that we still are in a top 3 situation after this next fight, potentially, if that information is still accurate.
Yeah, that is important to note. I'd overlooked that myself, so good call there. Okay, well, I mean, this should be pretty straightforward, this fight. Then I'm sure we'll start out next turn by scouting and figuring out what we need to do before then proceeding through the turn and trying to execute the game plan.
mean, it is turn 20, and even the ghost boards are looking terrifying. Now, I know we're going to beat this no problem, but these are just very, very good fairy tale fablers. Best players in the game, I'd have to say.
Okay, we are into the top 2. There is a revive still active, it looks like, for Fausti. Fausti is the player that is guaranteed to be live if this one goes another round. So Fausti has the chance of extending this tournament and then also having a chance to win next round. So it's all or nothing for both of these players. Get free roll back, just trying to lock it up and end the tournament right now. Fausti trying to have a chance to win next round. 2 Shadow Lords. Is that something we care about?
It. Yeah, it looks like we're taking it. I mean, you could upgrade the Philosopher's Stone. You won't need it anymore. So if any level 6 treasure can do anything useful for you, it's okay. Doppelganger is pretty good.
Wait, are we keeping the Philosopher's Stone? I'm not.
Oh, for the monkey later. For the monkey later.
That's exactly
we're planning
what it is.
For the monkey, aren't we?
Yeah. Realizing that this isn't, even if you win, necessarily going to be the last fight, making a play that could help us on a future turn. Yeah, interesting. Well done. I like it.
Did you comment on that spell reflector, Yuck?
I did not know.
Fausti's got a spell reflector. That good boy board has a spell reflector. Huh. Because I'm looking at it. Nobody's really. I know. Give free roll back is on 1 HP and has lost some fights to get here, right? Some people have put them, but in the last handful of fights, give free roll back's been riding 1 HP for a long time and nobody's been able to do anything about it. Spell reflector might be able to change that.
This one's interesting. You kind of want to find a way to get a brave little Tailor in here somewhere, but you have so many other things you want to play, or a celery tea, sure. This is one of those spots where you wish you had more slots on board to use, because you just want to play everything you have. Okay, well, let's see. I'm not sure which way this one goes, Horse. What do you think?
I mean, I'm staring at it too because we have all these different options, right? So it looks like we're going to go for the double celery tea. Shutting down the good boy is really good. I wonder if you almost drop a twig for a Tailor, but then you don't get the. It's yeah. I want another board slot. I gotta say, I still think it's give free rollbacks fight, but I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Okay, well, we do see a back protector, but we did not play the flying celery tea. We played the one that did not have flying, so we didn't care so much about that back protector. In fact, we've kind of, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say we baited Fausti into playing it, but Fausti played it, and it really gave them no benefit.
So Fausti got value on the bigger good boy. We celery teed the smaller good boy. So Fausti did not get full good boy value, and we were convincingly ahead with the stats left over if Fausti only gets one good boy. Now, Fausti's going to have bigger good boys this turn. Will it be enough?
Well, a few things we'd be looking for. A Circe's Cut for either player could be quite a big deal.
Yeah.
We haven't seen one yet. We don't know if Fausti will come across one. We're running out of gold, though.
Now with the chair, flying looks a little less appealing. With the back protector in play. Taking out the fishermen and the flounders before they can get big is nice, but that's harder to do.
Is the chair going to be on board again this next turn? They don't have to play it again. They saw we didn't have a flying character, right? We also have a flying celery tea. So, or no, we don't. Sorry. We don't.
No.
We don't. It was flying for one turn from the fairy dust is what it was, right?
Yeah. We've had a couple of one-turn flyers. We had the flying phoenix for a turn, but nothing right yet, or nothing right now.
But there's the mind game there. Is your opponent going to play their same board, or are they going to adjust to what they saw you have, or are they going to adjust to what they think you might have? There's some fun mind games that can happen here, and there's an entrance item that could be pretty spicy. We certainly can't get to that. Looks like we are going to get to the golden celery tea, though.
Yeah, we might as well take a look. We really don't need the Philosopher's Stone at this moment, but none of those treasures help. Everything's already golden. What does a Golden King do? I mean, it's a better Philosopher's Stone, I guess, but
everything is golden, and we have Philosopher's Stone, so it's like more than everything is golden.
Do you just take 25-4 on your front row? That's not important right now. Do you take Merlin's staff? There's maybe some utility there. Do you skip? You want to get the arcane rune so the gold's not doing you much. I guess you skip and grab stuff out the shop.
Yep. Yep. I think this is the best option. It's not an exciting option, but I do think it was the best option. We are going to lock in case there's another round. Another round is unlikely, though, because both players are on 1 health. Unless we get a tie, this is going to be the final fight.
Fausty, 69 HP, now 49. Fausty throwing the Hail Mary.
No. That had to be unintentional. That had to be. There's no way that was.
Well, could it be intentional?
Because you can't come back from that. Like,
I've never been able to. I don't think there's a way to come back from that. But
if you were fighting for second place here, and just trying to live long enough to get second place, sure. Players do this on occasion. This is not unheard of when you have Spell Reflector, maybe playing too quick or you just didn't think or whatever the case is, to accidentally destroy your entire board and gain health. So that was a lot of health. So that means we do have a couple more fights left. I said that was probably the last fight as we were going into it. I thought for sure that was the last fight. It is not. We got a couple more, but I think we know who's going to win this one, Horse.
I have never, ever seen that be able. I've never seen you be able to come back from that one. You look at the gold on Give Free Rollback's board right now, what's in play, right? It's effectively 7 slots of things that cost 18 gold a piece. We're talking, this board is over 100 gold to build, items included. Fausty is going to get 16 gold a turn. You'll never have enough money to come back. You'll never. So it bought you a couple more turns. Yeah, I can't imagine any run out. Maybe some miracle wolf turn. I mean, 48 health left there, 3 fights guaranteed. It's going to take 3 fights to chew through 48 health, but in 3 turns with 48 gold at your disposal, no shot. No shot, right?
And Give Free Rollback, I think, recognizes that and is having some fun with it by playing the Talking Frog on board, because why not? All right, well, intentional or unintentional, it's unique. We can talk about this one all the way until next month, I think. It is a thing that happened. All right, man. It's fun. Although, why not a chameleon? If you're only going to play one character, come on.
Yeah, no, that's it. And also, why not a chameleon for Give Free Rollback? If you're going to play a Talking Frog, you might as well roll a few times for the chameleon. Man, if that play were viable, that would be a wild play, right? You get up into a top 2 situation, you realize that you're just behind and you're probably not going to get over the top on your next turn, so you heal back up to full and beyond, and then if it were viable that you could have enough money to refill your board and then maybe use the Spell Reflector to buff up a few things, it'd be interesting. That probably would be kind of gross, though, so maybe I'm kind of happy it's not.
Well, Horse, I don't think I've ever used this phrase in this game or even in this type of game, but I think Give Free Rollback just went coast to coast on this one.
Coast to coast, huh?
Yeah, I mean, highest point scorer day 1 wins game 1, wins game 2. Mirror on the Wall, I mean, all right, good one, Fausty, good one. I mean, it is a character that does something. Seriously,
it's kind of the best thing.
Yeah, but there's just no way it'll be enough.
Shot you can find 19 more of those and have a fully golden Mirror on the Wall board. All we need is 21 mirrors on the wall, and then we're cooking, I think.
Huh. I do think we had a very good chance of seeing Give Free Rollback winning even without that play that Fausty made. So I don't think it was like a play that lost them the game per se, but it is definitely a play that gave them no chance.
I mean, you look at the fight prior, and Give Free Rollback was convincingly ahead, having scammed one of the 2 good boys. If one good boy got scammed, it really went Give Free Rollback's way. If both good boys got to go and Fausty found a Cersei's Cup, the next fight might have looked a little different, might have had the stats to get over, but the scaling never stops with these twigs either. So if you want to fight stats versus stats, you kind of need your spells to be so much better out of the shop with that Spell Reflector to keep up with all the twig scaling. Yeah, I think it was pretty feasible that this was Give Free Rollback's lobby in the second fight, but this is a
When
really interesting way to finish it up. I would never have
when
expected this.
when we saw the hero swap, I wonder if Mimic, Meta Mimic, and Phantom were offered. If we would have just taken those, I'd say probably so. That would have been something. I will also point out that even though it doesn't matter here, the play to keep Philosopher's Stone to think ahead and play ahead for the monkey in a spot where it looked like we were coming up on the end of the game ends up being pretty clever by Give Free Rollback. So that's why you are able to win a bunch of games in a row, because you're making plays that aren't immediately obvious to everybody else and taking advantage of that. So yeah, GG. This has been a fun one.
This is such a strange situation, and I don't like sitting here in this like mindset that we kind of already know how it's going to end, even though we roughly pretty much kind of do. I'm afraid to call it too early, you know. However, we upped the race points for this tournament. It was harder. We had Tikuwabu was the first person to take it in 3. It had not happened in prior months. Tikuwabu did it for the first time last month in 3 games, managed to close out the whole tournament in 3. Give Free Rollback. There was no shot. I did not expect that. Well, look at all these golden fans.
No.
Dr. Frank,
I mean, Fausty did what Fausty could do from that
Yeah.
spot. Played Ascendants, got big mirrors on the wall because they were golden, had a golden Dr. Frank. I mean, honestly, credit for resilience and not giving up there and playing it out. But we do, in fact, see Give Free Rollback take this one down. Congratulations, Give Free Rollback. Well
GG,
played.
well played.
We got to
crowned
watch
our June champion, Yukmouth. Give Free
Yeah,
Rollback.
we got to watch a lot of it too. We spectated Give Free Rollback in the first game because they had the most points going into this. And then the last game, because they were live, we got to see 2 full games and part of another one.
Well, Give Free Rollback might not have made a showing last month, but decided to make a big showing this month, saying, you can't forget about me. No shot.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. I wasn't expecting it to end after 3 games this early. I really was geared up for at least 4, possibly even 5 games. But not everybody had that same plan, it seems.
I'm a little gobsmacked. I didn't expect it. And also, Give Free Rollback. We watched so many turns of being 1 HP that game.
Shout out though to Fausty, who is going to take second place here with 15 points in the race format. 2 players tied at 13 points. That's Dr. Anansi and Swift. I also want to throw out, as I read off these names of the top 4 finishers, 2 of those players, Fausty and Dr. Anansi, both qualified through asynchronous gameplay. So we had talked about earlier how different that would be, and would those players be able to adjust and that kind of thing. To finish in the top 4 is impressive. So congratulations. And yeah, it's impressive to me.
Well, and shout out again to Turnt Individual one more time, because those folks that Yuck just named are eligible for that prize pool. And this whole show is sponsored by Turnt. So absolutely a lot of gratitude. Appreciate it very much, Turnt. Thanks for letting us do this today.
And I don't know exactly when the crystal code is going to be shut off, but if you just tuned in or you haven't done it yet, maybe you're a procrastinator, make sure you try to hurry up and get those crystals with the code before the end of our coverage here today.
Yeah, and outside of that, we could mention the Kickstarter one more time. I know that campaign is wrapping up, but big shout out again to Cool Dad Shorts for the idea, and a big shout out to the community for funding that first $5,000 last month within the first 24 hours. That should lead to a great influx of new art, including people's hand-drawn pets in the game. Just fun options, making the game even more lively, even more fun place to be. So shouts there.
And shout out to Livy in the background. You don't hear Livy, but Livy is really helping a lot with this. We appreciate Livy, and has done a great job helping make this smooth. Even though we had some hiccups along the way with spectating, had to restart a lobby, I think all of that went as smooth as it possibly could have. So great job to Livy as well. Horsethief, it was amazing casting with you as always. I had plans this weekend and had to make room to be able to do this, but I couldn't say no because I love it so much. And happy to be able to do it. And my final thing is I want to say thanks to everybody watching. Thanks for spending your day with us today. Hopefully you enjoyed the coverage.
Yep. I want to just say congratulations one more time to Give Free Roll Back. Congratulations, Zillalag GG's. Well played. You are our June champion. Well deserved. Yuck. Thank you so much for spending your day with me and reconfiguring your weekend so that you could do that here today. I absolutely love doing this with you. And same thing, I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming, hanging out with us, allowing this to happen, allowing this to be a lot of fun. It's always more fun with friends, and I appreciate the community, all the support that we get in doing this. So, Yuck, that's all I got. I think it's time for us to say sayonara.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.